Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Challenger Circuit on this lovely Thursday. Set number 1 of EU is all wrapped up, and we're getting ready to hop into our second set of the day. That's going to be between Hex Mambo and the Aaru Scorpions, our top 2 teams in the EU region, so a lot of implications on the line for this set. You're not going to want to miss out on this. I'm J Mac Tucker. I got Trelly Relly joining me on the desk to help me go through this set, get you guys set up for an amazing set. If anything, the EU region has been very competitive. The SEC in general, Trelly, has been very competitive this phase. And now that we get to finally have our top 2 teams in EU face off, should be a great set.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the luck of the draw or what, but I happen to be on like every Mambo set, so every time I go, I get to say like, they're undefeated still. Like, there's a chance they could lose that or they continue that streak, and it's all the more exciting to watch. There's so much on the line here. Going for an undefeated record by the end of the phase would be something Mambo would be pretty happy about.
So what I'm hearing is that you're the Hex Mambo's good luck charm to stay undefeated at this point. So if the Hex Mambo keep winning, better hope that Trelly Relly's on the cast alongside it. Let's take a look at the schedule and standings, though, just to see what all is going to break down for the rest of the EU SEC for this week. We already had our first match of the day. I mean, you wouldn't believe that it was a 2-1 with how early it is comparatively. It's only barely 1 p.m. at this point, and it was a 2-1 over to the Highland Ravens. Hex Mambo now against the Aaru Scorpions, and then the Gilded Gladiator and the Styx Ferryman will be our set tomorrow, starting out the day at 11 a.m., so make sure you tune in there. A look at the standings to see where everybody pans out as of now. With the Hex Mambo at the top of the list, a 4-0 record for themselves. Aaru Scorpions right behind them, hot on their heels with a 3-1. And then, with that last one between the Gladiators and the Ferrymen, a 2-2 and a 1-3 team respectively. Another large implication base standing onto that one, battling for that 4th seed spot. And you want to make sure that you are in that top 4 amongst these teams, continuing on with the remainder of the phase and with the remainder of the year. But this Hex Mambo and Aaru Scorpions matchup should be a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, top 2 teams at the moment, Aaru Scorpions have a lot on the line if they don't want to drop down and tie in that standings as well, so making sure to stay that. But again, holding on to that number 1 seed, that undefeated streak, I'm sure the Hex Mambo would love to just finish this phase strong. And given the set that we just watched, and if you didn't tune in, there was an interesting little matchup there where we saw triple Hunter composition. We always talk about how the EU SEC sort of differs comp-wise from the NA SEC. I'm interested to see how those implications will go in Picks and Bans.
Yeah, Picks and Bans should be an interesting one between these 2 teams. So let's jump right in them between Hex Mambo and Aaru Scorpions. Game number 1, P's and B's. And it should be fun. These guys have been playing a lot of weird stuff. We talked a lot about Trixtank specifically last week with the insane god pool that he has and the insane win rates on some of the gods that he has. It was like 86% win rate on like Sobek or something like that.
God, yeah.
Yeah, the one that the Scorpions are banning. And that's not even the wildest stat. It's the fact that like he only has like 4 actual support, and I'm saying actual supports because he has played in some matches where he did like a Scylla game or something like that or whatever, but he has only like 4 actual support gods that are under a 50% win rate. And to me, that is just wild, Trelly.
Yeah, the win rates that Trix is able to bring to the table is disgusting, and that's why you're seeing the Sobek banned away. We said it. We said if Trix is on the croc, we're investing in the stock. We're buying the stock. I'm looking at the clock. There was a lot of wordplay being said as we watched the Sobek just wreak havoc on the battleground. So it looks like we are going to see the Uller Freya and Nemesis, 2 picks that have been pretty strong, as well as the Nem in the jungle, just one of those dominant picks. Usually it was like Nem and Mercury, but Mercury sort of fallen by the wayside. Nemesis, however, still pretty potent, while the Aaru Scorpions have taken away that Sobek and the Amaterasu and the Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga's been running the mid lane in the SEC, the EU SEC in particular, but the NA SEC also puts a little bit of respect on the Baba Yaga as well.
Yeah, Zyrhoes has really been liking this pick ever since it's kind of risen up into its popularity, so no surprise seeing that the Aaru Scorpions will take him away from a comfort pick. But you want to go back to comfort picks and maybe giving a little bit away of what your hand is kind of early on. Fafnir is a first pick from Mambo, probably not the one that I would immediately imagine over anything else, but Aaru Scorpions will respond by picking up a Huang for themselves, so it gets uncomfortable over in that mid lane. And then Chernobog, who has been one of the more dominant hunters in the meta, no matter which EU or NA scene that you're looking at, as he has been a top pick across the board, Charlie.
Yeah, I think the global presence, it doesn't matter where you are, it's going to be annoying to deal with. Huang also has been extremely potent in that mid lane, the Dueling Dragons ultimate, and not just the ultimate, because the ultimate is a great talking point, but early game aggression, Huang has some solid kill potential at like level 2. Once you get those abilities online, that Root to Cultivated Dow, it's a lot of damage to be output. But Hex Mambo is going for a pretty traditional auto attack base comp with the Bellona, the Rama, and the Fafnir, so I imagine if the Aaru Scorpions are looking at this comp, they're like, hey, we should probably ban some of those auto attack junglers, just not wanting to give that course that much value.
So far, at least, the value that you will get from the course comes from this Rom and a little bit of the Bellona. Throw the Eagles rally in there for some extra stims to the rest of your team, too. So a lot of objective clear and a decent bit of team fight out of Hex Mambo. We'll have to see where they lock the rest through. But Yemoja makes its way through into the draft, now going over to the Aaru Scorpions. And that is a god that, at least at the SPL level, has seen 100% pick and ban rate. I think it only even saw one pick last week, and that was to genetics, and that was a win, and I would never want to see Yemoja make it through at the top level of play. At this lower level of play, though, with the SCC, there's a little bit more play with that god, though.
Yeah, there's definitely some more wiggle room, but I still don't want to see Yemoja going through this late into the draft, and obviously Mambo knew this would happen because they grabbed the Fafnir, and this is what we want. We don't value the Yemoja in this slot. We want this Fafnir, so they had to expect that. Only really the Rama getting too affected by the River's Rebuke, so maybe some Phantom Shells to be had, but now we're getting that second wave of bans. Actually, the Hoonbats being targeted. Obviously, Johnny's got a very solid Hoonbats, but looking at the Coerce, I was thinking more towards those auto attackers. This is a Johnny style of draft, though, give or take, so maybe they're just saying, hey, he's going to play whatever he wants. You know, the Coerce value is not going to be the biggest issue. What we are worried about is those team fight ultimates, Ratatosker, and the Hoonbats are going to bring those.
Yeah, especially with how much we've been seeing the Ratatosker make its way to the solo lane. We did see a little bit of that crit Ratatosker come out during the SPL. I believe Scream was the one who piloted that. Had a fantastic start during that game, but once the late game came through, the crit kind of fell off just a little bit there, but still a lot of setup and utility between those two gods. The Aaru Scorpions taking a couple hits in the jungle. Same as Hex Mambo, though. They've banned away Dodgy and Osiris. That still leaves this Erlang Shen to be grabbed by the Aaru Scorpions, but I gotta wonder, what are the Hex Mambo thinking with their jungle pick now with all of these junglers taken away, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, the Loki notably is still available, something that Johnny does.
Go forth, my children, and take over this land.
First, which just, you know, every time I see this pick locked in, I always say the same thing. It's just, it doesn't look bad, really, ever. There's no reason not to pick a Tiamat. There are better picks available, but she's just pretty safe, brings a lot of damage. Wow, last pick, Mercury. You know, I talked about this right at the beginning of the draft, the fact that, you know, we see the Nemesis ban, but Mercury, he's sort of fallen off. If you can still land those sonic booms, get, you know, that crit online early, you can still make your presence then with this Mercury.
Yeah, so will be a 9th pick Mercury by Hex Mambo, so a round out of their draft, and a King Arthur to close it out for the Aaru Scorpions. So the solo lane matchup, Bellona King Arthur. Not really too much to go in on there. Erlang Shen Mercury, very heavy Erlang favor in the early stage of the game. Mercury more towards the early Shen.
Yeah, the early Shen, Erlang, whatever you want to say. Mercury is not going to have a good time up against the Erlang early on.
You got what I was saying there, Charlie. But game number 1 between Hex Mambo and the Aaru Scorpions ready to go. Let's jump right in and see how this explosive first and second seed matchup is going to start out. Best of 3 between our top EU teams. And no surprises really as to where any of these swings are going to cross the board. If this was the SPL and this was the Jade Dragons, there might be some intrigue as to where this Huang was going to be going, but over here in the EU region and in the SCC in general, probably going to see a little bit more standard keeping the Huang over in mid.
I will say I'm upset at Pikarino's build, and I'm going to voice it. You got to be your conduit gem enjoyer when you're going the Huang, man. That early presence, look, Zyrhoes understands it. He's going the conduit gem, which works so well on Tiamat, by the way. The gem of focus late game, you have so many abilities to proc it, so you're constantly getting those buffs, but I don't know. I'm on the conduit gen wave now. The Sands of Time. If you're gonna go this stacking build, which it seems like Pikarino is going towards with the Warlocks, trying to get some survivability, you're up against a Mercury who's probably not gonna get kin size, right? You're gonna be getting crits, so it still will work out. But I just love that early presence from that conduit gem. You're just chunking.
Yeah, we've seen what it can do over in dual lanes for gods like Freya. We've seen what it can do just in general, and be able to kind of bolster up the solo lane as well, get a little bit more clear presence over there. Which is interesting that we aren't seeing any of the Guardians solos. We'll talk more about that as Sarpeii makes a rotation over towards Deathwalker. Level 2 for the Bellona, level 2 for Sarpeii. Finds the pin, but a great disarm. Better body blocks? Not quite enough. Deathwalker, that one disarm is enough to save his life.
Yeah, usually the shield bash is the option at level 2 just in case an early gank, but if you're trying to get aggressive and/or you're against an auto attack based jungler, that disarm is going to be able to save you more often than not. And now Deathwalker, with the Death's Toll and the cleave autos, is pretty much full health HP already. That's the benefit of this build on Bellona. Even though the gank came through, no real presence came from it. And it looks like because Johnny didn't make that rotation over to solo, he's going to help out in mid, get some mid camps, and possibly look towards that duo lane at the moment, just farming it.
Back into the solo lane, Deathwalker back to full HP thanks to the Death's Toll, the Scourge, the potions that he had ticking the entire way through. Able to keep himself sustained and basically make it as if that gank never happened on that side. He will go back and upgrade his teleport very early on and pick up the second tier. Or no, actually he picks up a Chalice Healing. I thought he was going to upgrade his items a little bit more there, but just going for that extra survivability, that extra time knockdown as far as his relic is concerned, so he can teleport to lane more often.
Yeah, it's interesting because Deathwalker was the first one to really put into this strategy where you back early on. Remember when it was like Death's Toll and Mark of the Vanguard start, where you could get you could get 2 starter items. Deathwalker would start Death's Toll, back immediately after the first wave, and then get Mark of the Vanguard. So not too against this strat where you just back as early on as possible. Looks like Predss was able to just hog away that buff, even though Trixtank was there. That hand of the gods is going to make sure that you're always able to just confirm those objectives. But yeah, Deathwalker, not a stranger to teleporting away early. As long as you're getting that on cooldown, fighting for your second blue buff, you should be just fine in that regard. And Panvich also has that teleport, and there's not going to be too much aggression coming from the King Arthur until maybe that sovereignty is built. You know, you get some extra HP 5. You can actually brawl with a Bellona. So a good start for both of these solo lanes, as Hex Mambo are pulling ahead a little bit gold-wise, maybe just by the nature of their farm. Only got 400. No fighting just happened. It's that one gank we saw in solo that sort of petered into nothing.
Yeah, not a whole lot of action just yet across the board. I am curious as to maybe this dual lane matchup over anything. Trixtank and Echrome. Trixtank going with this horrific emblem start. Meanwhile, it's a shell for Predss. So an easy beads pop against Davy if he can find that relic in the midst of a fight. But Predss is going to potentially be a little bit caught out. And we see Predss. I'm not going to necessarily, I don't want to coin this as the genetic strat, but it's something that Genetics does in the Pro League all the time, which is just constantly riptiding the minions back and forth to the left side of the tower, back further into the tower, just playing super obnoxious with that ability.
Yeah, the first person I saw do that sort of strat was Jeff Hinla on the Terra with the minion wall like so long ago. So since Jeff retired, I'm gonna give him the credit for it. You know, like no one else can. He can't come for me. He's already gone. So yeah, Jeff was the first one to do it. And if you know, if I'm wrong, oh well, it doesn't matter anymore. So that's where I first, just pushing those minion waves back, and then obviously Yemoja just does it so much better with her Riptide. You can push them whichever way you want, send them this way. You can throw them into the tower if you really want to. So a lot of minion, I guess, displacement happening at the moment in that duo lane, just trying to get some of that presence. And it looks like Echrome has been left alone. Trix rotated out, and this Rama is gonna have to just deal with the fact that there is going to be some presence towards this purple buff, but it looks like Trix makes the rotation over and says, hey, I left, but this purple buff still belongs to us. You can't have that one for free.
Yeah, Davey had already backed himself all the way back to his own purple buff. Predss is just kind of sticking around the jungle to see if there's any more rotations over. Zyrhoes on this Tiamat should be able to clear up this red buff pretty easily with the help of Dzoni making his way over.
Predss going for the bubble.
Predss wants to steal this away so badly. Does he have the Moonblast or the Bubble Strike? He's got the Bubble Bounce and the Moon, but not going to be enough. Now slowed down, and with no CC muted, no way to get out. He's got a River's Rebuke and a Riptide to try and help out, but that's not going to get him very far. Too many stuns, and one more dot is all it will take. Trixtank, first blood. Dzoni charging up the Sonic Boom. Will manage to find Davey. Beads are available to him, but Davey's going to have to use them at some point, but doesn't. It's a kill for Dzoni now.
I mean, okay, so I understand not beadsing the Sonic Boom. Davey definitely thought, hey, I'm just going to dash out and I'll be completely fine. But then once the special delivery comes through and you're 1 HP, like, you gotta beat that, right? I mean, it was just a little selfish is what we just saw there. Davey certainly could have gotten out of that one. And I think Dzoni just wanted the beads as well. There really wasn't too much kill opportunity there. But now you got 2 kills in favor of Mamba, who are already ahead in gold. All from what seemed like a decently strong attempt at that purple buff steal. You know, Predss didn't put himself too far out of position. Just didn't expect the Mercury there, and 2 kills down. Mambo's in the lead.
Hex Mambo with those 2 kills have a massive 1,300 gold lead. So that first blood bounty plus the additional farm that they've just been getting from those players being down and just the farm across the map. Zyrhoes has been pretty much left alone in this mid lane the entire time. The only moments where we've seen Dzoni kind of rotate over towards one of these lanes is to help get a buff. Otherwise, he's been inside of his own jungle. So Hex Mambo off to an early start. And that's definitely what you want. You want to get this Mercury on as early as possible, because this is the time of the game where Sarpeii should be shining.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Sarpeii actually went for the Crusher, so the Golden Blade will not be the itemization here for the Erlang Shen. It does bring a ton of early damage, but as you highlighted, Sarpeii hasn't really tried to get too active except for that one gank onto Deathwalker early on. Erlang Shen has Blink. I mean, this is the time when you want to make use of this kid as much as possible. You know, use that Mink form and try and run down some opponents, get some kills online. But Sarpei's been just trying to farm as of this moment, so let's see where that Aaru Scorpions jungler decides to put some of this early presence. Given the fact that you got that Blink, you got that Crusher, this is the time.
Yes, my favorite thing to watch is King Arthur's max charge ulting enemy solo laners, and then the enemy solo laner just says, okay, I'm just gonna go back to farming. That didn't mean anything to me. Cool player damage, bro. I've got some too.
Yeah, they just box back and forth, and with the Sovereignty and the Death's Toll, just so much regen. There was a time when there was just like some solo lane brawling, you know, you can see like a Hercules boulder into like a, just fighting back and forth. There is lots of fighting, but you know, it doesn't really net too much. When was the last time we saw like a true solo like kill? I remember like Hardcore on the Cthulhu soloing. I forget who it was on Bellona.
We just saw one with Final Can SOT when SOT soloed him as Uller against
Artio. Okay,
Artio.
well that's Uller, man. You're right though. That
but
makes
against
sense.
an Artio.
You're correct. That is true. I'm talking about like Warrior v Warrior, but
okay, you're talking a tried and true solo kill.
But
like,
you are correct. That was a solo kill, and you know if you are gonna bring Uller into the solo lane and hit everything, you're probably gonna get some pressure in that lane.
Probably get carpal tunnel too with. No joke, man. I've got to wonder how like. Is his hands okay? Because he spams those buttons on Uller so much. I don't know how SOT can manage to do so. But back into the SCC, Hex Mambo, Aaru Scorpions 2-0 to start this game out. Sarpeii will eat a hammer stun. Zyrhoes has already used his beads, has to jump away. Sarpei's got the tornado on top of him. Will get away from the team. Used his ultimate during that fight as well, so that's an ult for ult, but that's much more worthwhile for Zyrhoes, so a much shorter cooldown on that mage.
Yeah, and the 9 turns blessing, I think was slowed out, but it looks like Dzoni finds the ult on the Sarpeii, and with the stun, might be able to make it out.
One more hit would have taken it, but the shielding from the turtle is enough to get him out. Now Predss with the Riptide and the River's Rebuke will get himself out. Good stun by Trixtank, made you look. Will it Predss? Good body blocking, but a better Riptide. We'll get Predss back to the safety of the Tier 1 tower. Trixtank will just have to walk by. And somehow, Tretley, nobody goes down during that fight.
Yeah, just not enough damage coming out from the Hex Mambo just yet. I mean, it was a good engage, and they were able to get a lot out of Sarpeii, but as you mentioned, that turtle form shield was just enough. It was close. I thought the poison damage, like the tick damage from the Draconic Transformation there would have been enough, but it didn't even hit because he just got out of range as the explosion came through. So Sarpeii lives to see another day and won't give Dzoni like that closer to the rage. Once that rage comes online, I think you're gonna see a lot more damage coming out of this jungle.
And probably a lot more activity from him as well, as if Dzoni hasn't already been fairly active across the map. Mid Harpies do go the way of Hex Mambo. Oracles went over to the Aaru Scorpions earlier on. I think that's what the initial fighting that had broken out had been because of. Trixtank rotates over to try and deal with this purple buff, but maybe he's staying as calm and collected as he can, but still loses out on the buff. Predss a little bit late on that rotation to help out.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying firms where Trix has to hit the hammer. Like, you don't have to hammer the buff. If you hit the hammer, the stun comes so you can't DPS your buff. And at that point, you could also go for the... It looks like Sarpeii was trying to get aggressive again on the Zyrhoes. This time, decided to use the leap, goes into that quadrupedal form, and doesn't really care about that damage once again. So Sarpeii has been trying, we've been seeing the wheels turning, the cogs rolling, if you will, seeing some aggression onto this mid laner, but hasn't been able to find it just yet. I imagine the duo lane would just be a better gank. Echrome's been fairly pushed up in that lane, and this Rama doesn't have a great time trying to outrun an Erlang Shen with Blink, so I just don't think Zyrhoes is your best target for a gank.
Yeah, Zyrhoes is not only very mobile, but just the amount of CC immunity he has, not just with his Purification Beads, but in that quadrupedal ult as well, as you mentioned before. So Sarpeii doesn't really have the greatest tools to deal with Zyrhoes, so maybe we see Sarpeii put his focus elsewhere. It's already starting to get a little bit difficult for him to try and gank Deathwalker, as Deathwalker has gone for a Berserker Shield Iqbal start.
Wait, that's big brain.
That's a new one to me, to see Iqbal in solo lane.
Because it's King Arthur, so he's slowing his attack speed, so his energy actually charges up slower as well. That's big brain right there. I mean, I don't think that's why he did it. He's more so just trying to outbox the ADCs, but also he's like, hey, I'm just gonna, keep just whacking away as much as possible and slow your energy gain. I'm just overanalyzing because it's fun. Sarpeii, however, is gonna feel the wrath of this attack speed slow right here.
Eagles rally in place, but that's because Deathwalker's got backup, and seems the Aaru Scorpions recognize that. Not often do you Eagles rally an up-down right on top of 2 people, so recognizing that there might be someone on the way, Aaru Scorpions have once again backed out. But again, Sarpeii used his ultimate during that engagement, so he won't have it for an opportunity on either one of these other lanes.
Yeah, and it looks like a possible Pyromancer pull, and it's a possible Pyromancer burn. Panvich is here for the attempted steal, but special delivery is not going to confirm it. The Aaru Scorpion steal it away.
And Dzoni goes down. Panvich credit to the kill. River's Rebuke won't find anybody, but Deathwalker is being slowly chopped away by this King Arthur. Jump in by Trixtank. Does not find the disarm they were looking for, but a good knock-up out of Zyrhoes. A good hammer by Trixtank. Sarpeii continues to go in. Deathwalker does not have much left to his left. The stun will connect, and Predss not only steals away an objective, but also takes away another kill. Deathwalker goes down.
Yeah, the Yemoja, you know, the walls get talked about, the healing gets talked about, but sometimes the bubbles are all you need, and that stun plus the steal on the objective puts the Aaru Scorpions not quite in the lead, but back in this game for sure, gold-wise. Just a little bit down after that Pyromancer fumble. I really thought the special delivery from Dzoni was enough to clear that away. Panvich was the greatest steal opportunity, but sometimes a well-timed bubble is all you need to make sure that objective goes your way. And now, I mean, there's no stacks on Dzoni's Rage, I should say. So I was gonna say, like, maybe if you want to just look at how the map is going, XP-wise, Panvich is ahead of everyone at the moment. Level 14 on this King Arthur has the 1 level lead up against Deathwalker, and fell early because, you know, you're not that tanky with this All start. You have the Berserker shield, sure, but haven't went into any sort of magical defense just yet. Forced into the cloak. Now, I imagine the Hide of the Urchin, that's something that Deathwalker specifically has been building quite a lot.
Yeah, I remember they kind of got popularized a little bit with Mogao. He was running this really awkward build. It was like Chronos Pendant with the Oni Hunter's Garb or a Genji's Guard, depending on kind of how the matchup was. And you have like Spirit Robe and Hide of the Urchin into his, but he was doing weird. Mogao was always doing weird things, but somehow they always just kind of trickle down to the rest of the league in some way or another.
Yeah, I think Mogao's got a lot of eyes on him, right? Like, let's just see what kind of weird strangeness he's got up his sleeve this time. Like, yeah, we could try that, but I think Deathwalker has just been appreciating. Wait, no way. Zyrhoes put the lizards in Deathwalker's lane. That's messed up. Anytime I see the lizards in my lane and it's not like just in the mid lane, I'm like, dude, you're just sapping my farm, man. That's messed up. So Zyrhoes, maybe not creeping. Probably just Deathwalker said, yeah, I'll let you get some extra farm, man. No worries. But gonna put him a little bit behind. You're already a little bit of XP down from Panvich, so that's gonna continue if these lizards keep hitting the minions.
Looks like the lizards did get killed out early enough by Panvich, so won't have to deal with them for now. Does stop the bludgeon with yet another Excalibur's Wrath and yet another invade, but this one unsuccessful by Hex Mambo. Predss securing that again. Predss is the securing master on this Yemoja. That little bit of power he got from Chronos Pendant is really helping him boost out here. Able to steal an objective way earlier, find a kill, save their own pro buff in this case, but being chased by 4, Predss with a Riptide is all that he needs to get away.
Yeah, Pikarino doing a little bit of poke here with the build, going for that Warlocks and the Soul Gem. A lot of extra sustain. I expect to see some more presence put onto anti-heal if you are the Hex Mambo. Divine Ruin finished up, but it's difficult for Dzoni to try to build into. There's no way you can really get a Toxic Blade in there, and the Shadow Steel Shuriken really doesn't mesh well with your build. You're trying to get the Rage, the Deathbringer, maybe a Wind Demon. I imagine a Shadow Steel could come through just based on how much sustain we're seeing here from the Aaru Scorpions, being that iDavy already has the Devos and the Death Toll. That's a Yemoja, that's a Soul Gem from Pikarino, and oh yeah, 9 turns Blessing also gives a massive heal to Sarpeii. So I do expect to see a little bit more presence shown to that anti-heal as this game goes on.
Man, Charlie, considering the pacing of how the last set went, with especially with games 2 and 3, this like complete opposite. We are back to traditional EU SCC with these two teams. I mean, it was what, like 2 22-minute games or something like that in the previous set for games 2 and 3, and now we're 16 minutes in, only the 4 kills up so far. Not to say there hasn't been action across the board, it's just been so much survivability by both these teams. They've been able to find their ways out, but as we start to approach this 15-minute mark, Gold Fury being a little bit more enticing to these teams now that they have some of those damage, some of the damage online, some of these big items starting to kind of spike their way out. So keep your eyes on objectives, because Aaru Scorpions, they've got their eyes on maybe one. They're going to need something, and they get the blink from Dzoni to get it started.
Yeah, Dzoni got stuck in the river for a second, and then no one touched him. So he's like, I'm not in combat. I'll simply be able to blink out here. It looks like the Aaru Scorpions were trying to make a play at that Gold Fury. One pick could have been enough to start that fight, but with a well-timed blink and some good positioning there by Dzoni, it will just be a full retreat. And now we got quite some time before that ultimate's back up. Predss did go the Chronos Pendant, so the resets will start to add up, and that's going to help this Yemoja get those rivers available. But, you know, given the positioning of the junglers on the map, I imagine still some presence shown to the left side. This Gold Fury's got to be where we see, you know, the first bloodbath of this game. 2 kills total for each of these squads. Hasn't been too much action just yet.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with Deathwalker's third item. It is that Height of the Urchin picked up by him. Meanwhile, Aaru Scorpions, they'll go ahead and start up this Pyromancer, and seems they'll get it without any contest, to say the least. Nobody from Hex Mambo have shown up to try and deal with this one. They're just going to let that one go. And that 2,000 gold lead that Hex Mambo had at the start of the game got mitigated instantly within one fight, and has been slowly, very slowly, starting to teeter its way over towards Aaru Scorpions.
Yeah, it was inched away with the steal and the kill after the fact, and now it's inching ever further away as the Aaru Scorpions have found some aggression and just some superior objective play as the game continues. You know, in a situation like this, when you're about to see what I mean, I'm assuming we're about to see a big team fight at the Gold Fair. You got to look at the itemization here. Sarpeii did go for the Executioner, so trying to shred some protections for the rest of the squad. But iDavy also has the Executioner, so, you know, just stacking that up, it's not going to bring too much. It looks like Trixtank already goes into the Dragon. Pikarino's on the way. Panvich teleports in. The Gold Fair is going down.
Yeah, the crits are flying through, but the Dueling Dragons goes through as well. Does some good damage to find a push. Tornado onto Panvich. Trixtank will be able to squeak by from the root. The Gold Fury picked up now by the Aaru Scorpions. Dzoni charging up Sonic Boom. Snipes in the sky from Echrome. Will be enough of the extra damage between him and Trixtank. One of those is going to get it. And the River's Rebuke, though, will catch out too. Trixtank nowhere to go. Deathwalker has to jump over the wall to get out. And it looks like it was actually Johnny's Made You Look that stole it away at the last moment. And a nice little boost back for Hex Mambo after their earlier run in the game.
That's insane. I mean, I saw the snipes. The snipes were definitely a little bit too late. I wasn't able to finish that one. Trix with the Dragon Breath was close, but Dzoni, that was a 600 damage Made You Look, so that was certainly a crit. That was definitely a crit coming from this Mercury there to steal that one away. So one objective steal going the way. Davy's got to go somewhere. And it looks like he's going under the tower to Zyrhoes.
Not the safest place to go. Good thing he had some minions standing by, or maybe at least Predss to kind of bail him out for diving under the tower. But for now, Davy gets out. Loses out on his beads, though, and his ultimate. So not going to be very safe for at least the next 75 or so seconds until he can get that ultimate back online. Echrome will push up the wave. Trebuchet was cleared out as well. The Hex Mambo with a very small lead back to themselves now after getting that Gold Fury and mitigated the small lead that the Aaru Scorpions had built for themselves.
Yeah, now it's just back to the old drawing board. You got some time before Pyromancer's gonna be back up. It doesn't look like solo lane is any more gankable than it's looked pretty much all game, so Dzoni might come over here for a blue buff or two, but Panvich looking very tanky in his own right. Once I see crits like that, though, I think maybe you could be able to burn through that King Arthur. There is no beads. Panvich did go for the Blink Teleport combo, whereas Deathwalker, building a little bit more damage-oriented, was kind of forced into that Purification beads to try and not get CC'd down. It could also be just because there's a ton of lockdown on the Aaru Scorpions. If Sarpeii does a Blink 9 turns Blessing into the pin, you got Panvich who has a ton of CC, as well as we've seen Predss with these bubbles, so you got to make sure that you're watching out for that. As we see a little bit of a grouping here from Hex Mambo. Certainly not on the Fire Giant, though. They're just looking for some vision. With Johnny's crits, they would be able to do it quickly, and it looks like one auto attack is all they're going to give to that Fire Giant.
They hit it once, it hit back, Sarpeii stepped up, they said, okay, that's enough for me. We were just kidding, bro. We didn't actually want to do the Fire Giant, but now they could have an opportunity to do so. Sarpeii does go back, but nobody in the area to do so, so it'll just be some ward control for Hex Mambo around the objective. And as we start to kind of approach our stages of like the late game now, because we're starting to get players to hit around that level 20 mark, 18s and 19s across the board for everybody but the supports. I mean, how does the team fight look for both these teams, Strelly?
I mean, it looks like the Scorpions are still trying to play off of some setup from Sarpeii, a Blink ult in, that's got to be the initial engage. That or Panvich has that ultimate as well, could be a Blink engage there. There's going to be a little bit of a skirmish in the duo lane.
Sarpeii does use the beads after the special delivery comes through, and that sets up for Davy to pick up the kill against his enemy Hunter. Echrome falls down, and that is now an advantage over to the Aaru Scorpions. Maybe some further aggression on towards Dzoni. Had to back away. Sarpeii and Davy still standing by.
Yeah, it looks like has to give up that tower as well. Dzoni doesn't really want to brawl with both of these auto attackers, with the Executioner and the... Well, actually, no crit finish just yet for Davy. Only has that tier 2 win even. So just auto attacks coming from both of those junglers. But, you know, the tier 1 tower is going to have to go down, as well as Echrome unfortunately used both relics and still died. But the Aaru Scorpions, they're not on the right side of the map. They're not looking towards Fire Giant. They're still on the left where there's nothing really to go for. Now sort of making their way over towards what looks like a Pyromancer could be on the table, but more like a tier 1 tower. You know, even with a pick like this and the amount of damage the Aaru Scorpions have, still not feeling confident enough to try and go for that Fire Giant.
Zyrhoes has to sit very far back because there were 5 people in his lane pushing a single tier 1 tower 22 minutes in. The Aaru Scorpions do get that tower. They get the left tier 1 tower as well, the one over in dual lane. So a nice little influx of gold to the Aaru Scorpions to try and bring themselves a nice little bit of a lead. Sarpeii 0-4 on the Erlang Shen. Don't let that deceive you. He's been part of every single one of those kills. And Dzoni just misses the grab onto Predss. Fire Giant started up by Hex Mambo, but immediately leased once some of the members of Aaru Scorpion shows up. Mambo, get the Pyromancer. Now, can they get out? It seems to be so. Predss not willing to use the ultimate to lock anyone in.
Yeah, that was an interesting play there. Just pull the FG. Once they saw that the Aaru Scorpions are there, like, all right, we'll just 50-50 the Pyra. They burn that down incredibly quickly as well. And it looks like we might see a little bit of an engage here. Trix pops the Horrific, gets no relics, and Davy just walks out slowly.
Yeah, Panvich will as well just kind of crawl himself back to the lane, and once the effects wear off, he'll be good to go. And kind of looking at the relics, nothing fully upgraded just yet for Hex Mambo's support. Trixtank hasn't gotten that emblem to its highest tier, and neither has he gotten the Cursed Ankh all the way. Meanwhile, for our Scorpions, Predss has already fully upgraded that Heavenly Wings, got the Sprint Root now, the Sprout is available, and also has that Fortifying Shell. So a lot of defenses to the team, and Sarpeii goes in with the Blink, gets the beads away from Zyrhoes, and immediately the Scorpions back out.
Yeah, that's going to be the disengage as the Aaru Scorpions are going to retreat. I mean, you now have a win con here. You just wait for Sarpei's Blink ult once again, find Zyrhoes, try to pick him off that, and then look towards the objective. Of course, Mambo now know, hey, they might be looking for a Blink ult on a Zyrhoes and can play accordingly. It is a bit of, I don't know, 4D chess going on if you want to look for an objective at this point of the game, when the game is just so even. Oni Fury notably has spawned in here, so if Hex Mambo want to put some presence onto that, they would also be giving up some presence on a Fire Giant, vice versa. The Aaru Scorpions can decide, hey, we're going to defend, we're going to go to engage, or we can just use Davy, use that global presence to force someone over to this side of the map and then look towards that Fire Giant. There's a lot of different things that could be done going into a 25-minute plus Fire Giant pull. And it looks like the Aaru Scorpions are a little bit spread out, and Davy is actually going to go down that left lane, so expect to see some global presence coming from that Chernobog.
Yeah, utilize that ability to split push so effectively with that God, and with the minions pushed so far back on Hex Mambo's side of the map, it means that Davy would have to go pretty deep in order to clear out those minions, if he's going to do so. But it does not appear so. Well, maybe not. He's gonna keep double backing and guessing. Do I join the fight? Do I just keep the split push up? It seems for him he'll at least be clearing out the way, or clearing out the jungle just a little bit, and then rotating his way back. I have no idea where Davy is pathing to. He is taking such an awkward path to get back to this team fight.
Yeah, it looks like he's just, you know, moseying on over. Didn't want to get hit by an ult from Dzoni in the mid lane, so said, I'm going as far back as possible between these towers and not going to risk that being a pick. Trixtank is at the forefront of this fight, trying to find a hammer onto someone, as Deathwalker also is, you know, he's looking a little bit tankier with the Shogun's Kusari, but no stacks on that Urchin is not as tanky as Panvich is at the front of this fight.
Trixtank hits the hammer onto Predss. That sets up for a few big crits out of Echrome on towards Predss. Not enough to really threaten Predds' HP bar too much, as he does have the sustain from that second ability, but a full grouping minus Dzoni on this right side of the map. Aaru Scorpions have the man advantage if they want to try and get this Fire Giant fight going, but it won't take Dzoni long to get back to the fight.
Yeah, Zyrhoes' beads are on a 20-second timer. Sarpeii keeps stepping up, looking for a possible blink, and then backing off. So unless we see a fight in the next 15 seconds, and you know that opportunity that Sarpeii created so long ago, over 2 minutes ago now, is going to be wasted, and it looks like that is being what's going to happen. So Zyrhoes is back up. Everyone else's relics are looking strong, and we might be looking at an enhanced Fire Giant the way this has been going thus far. No one's really wanting to look for some aggression. Trix did pull the Fire Giant, but we've seen this time and time again.
Well, Blink in does once again get the beads from Zyrhoes. Sarpei's ultimate down and ult in from iDavy to crash into the middle of the fight. Pikarino up in the sky, the snipes, and the damage from Deathwalker are just too much. Echrome and Deathwalker close out one kill, and maybe can close out another with the help of Dzoni, but Panvich very tanky on this King Arthur. Can Beyblade his way back to the rest of the team. Trixtank and Echrome eating some poke from Pikarino. But a jump in from Trixtank. Not going to cost him his life. Everybody on Aaru Scorpions back themselves out. Double dueling dragons is good, but not good enough to get a kill just yet. Just putting some poke out.
Yeah, Sarpei's dead for 30 seconds, but the Hex Mambo, their health bars are not looking the greatest. With Trix and Zyrhoes on zone duty, maybe the Fire Giant burns out, and it does. Can they get away is the question. Zyrhoes already has to use the lead.
Well, into the middle of everybody goes Deathwalker. He's batting away at the HP bars of the enemy team, but he's also losing a lot of his. Echrome finds the kill on a Pikarino. The damage from the Hunter is good. Panvich goes down, and Zyrhoes will chase out Predss. There's only 2 left alive. The stun just off the mark, and Predss will maybe, no, he won't. The bull able to chase him out and get the last bit of damage necessary, and Deathwalker will close out the kill on Davy. A delayed deicide to Hex Mambo.
Yeah, I was waiting to see what Zyrhoes was going to whip out there. The Minotaur was able to slow that one down just enough, and it looks like even though Aegising that Phoenix shot, they are looking for this right side Phoenix. Sarpei, the only one up to defend. It's going to be a risky call. I was going to say, you lose the game here if you die, so Sarpei will just back off. You might lose the game anyways. That's a lot of respawn timers. Sarpei up against 5.
15 seconds until Pikarino is back up. Sarpei does have ult, taunts in 2, but not the most ideal 2 for him. Does not have a whole lot of damage, does not have a whole lot of health, and he will make it back to the respawn screen. Dzoni with the final kill, and Hex Mambo with only 8 kills. Close out the game in 28.5 minutes.
Wow, what started was just, a decent engage by Mambo into a very low HP Fire Giant pull. Deathwalker is able to sneak away, teleport back in. That's a full health Bellona running down your team. The Death's Embrace, the Scourge, the healing was just a little bit too much. It seemed like the Aaru Scorpions were pretty confident with that fight, and then they realized Deathwalker came back, and they're like, can we get out? No, you couldn't. That's going to be a decide into game over.
Well, our number 1 seed continues to remain at that point at least. Game number 1 to Hex Mambo. Can they keep it up in game 2? We'll find out right after this.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
And welcome back to the SCC for the European region. Hex Mambo, the #1 seed, continue to show why they are the #1 seed. They take game #1 over the Aaru Scorpion. And what was a very kind of slow-paced game to start this one out, Trelly, a little bit of back and forth. I mean, we were sitting 16 minutes in. The kill count was 2-2, not a whole lot going through, but once we started getting around this objective play, we got to see just kind of the damage output that Hex Mambo really had.
Yeah, it seemed like Mambo were just playing for that late game. When you have a jungler like Mercury, it is one of those things where you're just like, you know, we'll sit by, we'll let some aggression come our way. Obviously, the Aaru Scorpions had superior objective play up until that point. Once the steal away from that Gold Fury happened, it seemed like it was just a downward trend there for the Scorpions. One teleport in from Deathwalker after the fire was enough to just make sure that this fight was a massive success for them.
Yeah, and even having that River's Rebuke wasn't enough to save the Aaru Scorpions. You see Deathwalker diving in the middle of the rivers at that point, finding a nice double stun, sets up for some big damage out of Echrome, who's able to have a nice pop-off right at the tail end of the game once he got that crit online alongside his jungler. But Deathwalker on this Bellona, a very strange build, at least to say the least, to how he went through Berserker's Iqbal and then into the Hide of the Urchin Shogun. So it took him a while to get his defenses online, but once he had that, once he had that Death's Toll fully upgraded through, we got to see a lot of the sustained power this Bellona had.
Yeah, it seemed like he recognized just how many auto attackers he was up against. So if you're in that shield stance, you know, you're going to be absorbing most of those auto attacks, and you can just disarm the rest of the damage, so not really fearing too much from the physical characters. And as long as Pikarino wasn't hitting him with a Dueling Dragons, he was able to get to the backline and just sustain so much with that Death's Embrace Scourge combo. Actually does get top damage on his team. However, Panvich was definitely top in the game.
Well, look, Panvich was literally just max charge ulting Deathwalker on cooldown. It felt like every single time that we panned over to the solo lane, it was Panvich in the sky with Deathwalker. So I'm not going to count a lot of that as full-on players. He had like 13,000 before we even got to the actual team fighting phase there. So, but still, Panvich able to put out some good numbers for his team, at least stay alive for a little bit longer, but just not quite enough kind of sustained damage throughout that team fight. The sustain was decent out of the Aaru Scorpions, but I mean, they're fighting into Curse Song. Horrific Emblem is just so difficult for them. Let's see if anything changes up for Picks and Bans in game #2 between Hex Mambo and Aaru Scorpions, see if there's any adjustments to be made, because when we see these Yemojas get through at the SCC level, it's not... we can't even at the SPL say that it's like a guarantee that when Yemoja gets through, it's a win. It really kind of depends on some of the players. We can almost say it's like a 99%er, but in the SCC, you can still see that there's a little bit of coin toss potential with that god.
Yeah, it really just depends on what you're able to do with that pick, and given that, we're looking at the Picks and Bans, and Nem and Freya are going to be taken away. Still, Aaru Scorpions fearing Trixtanks on the Sobek, so...
I would.
Yeah, I also would, given that win rate, and it looks like the Amaterasu going to get a bit of respect once again, so nothing too out of the ordinary here. If we see the Baba Yaga from the Aaru Scorpions, and I believe the Uller from Mambo, we will just be doing mostly the run back, and then we'll have to see if it is just a full comp reset, or if Mambo are feeling, you know, a little bit of different presence in this game.
For now, Amaterasu banned away, so strong ban up against the solo lane. Also, funny enough, that's also a decent ban up against Trixtank, who has an 82% win rate on Amaterasu as a support player. Back when Amaterasu was in that support role for a little while there. But final ban will be the Fafnir, so 2 direct shots over at Trixtank, 1 over at Deathwalker with that Amaterasu ban, and then a Chernobog first pick by Hex Mambo. So putting a little bit of respect on that god this time around, making sure to grab that over for their hunter.
Yeah, and it looks like because that Fafnir is taken away, Trix is going to have to play something different, and the fact that we see the Chernobog means that, you know, a little bit of global presence this time for Mambo. And the Huang, once again, is going to be first pick by the Aaru Scorpions. I have no problem with that. Huang, very safe, brings a lot of burst damage. I don't think there's ever going to be an issue where, you know, much like Tiamat, I don't see too many bad matchups for Huang, and also a ton of good ones, no, but the dodgy, things like that. But Panvich will take away the Bellona. I mean, I guess it could be in a different role, but more often than not, in the solo lane. So Panvich will actually take that Bellona away from Deathwalker.
Man, I love this part. So
Mercury
exciting.
locked in by Hex Mambo, so that will once again go over towards Dzoni. So Dzoni going to have something that he got to kind of run comfortably on last game. Same thing that he'll get to run back this time around. Hex Mambo with their 3rd pick, still waiting to see what they'll lock in. Huang against Bellona. And Baba Yaga is banned away last time around in place of this Fafnir, so Zyrhoes will now get to reprise himself back in that mid-roll on one of his picks that he's been going to a lot more often these last couple of patches.
Yeah, I imagine it's got a decent matchup into Huang as well. If you can, you know, home sweet home the Dragons, you're not going to be displaced here. You'll take a fair bit of damage, but then you should be able to just run him down, force out that Celestial Flight, and he can't really disengage after that. So I imagine a decent time there. The Ymir, however, that's going to be an interesting one. The wall specifically, I can see being a nightmare for Mercury. The sonic boom into a wall, you never want to see that. The engage and the disengage. All 3 of these characters are not going to like being walled off by Ymir. Forcing out the Baba Yaga pot also gives you a pretty free freeze, and then you can cancel that ability out as well. So I think a smart pick here for the Scorpions to get Predss on that one.
Yeah, as far as the bans are concerned, once again, it's kind of priority in the jungle. A couple of auto attack centric ones like the Osiris and the Erlang Shen taken away. So we're going to have to see something new, at least out of the jungler for Aaru Scorpions. Now with a Terra ban, really kind of digging deep into the god pool and to kind of into the pockets of what we've been seeing more recently out of Trixtank. We don't see Terra very often, but it's something that he has been going to a little bit more often as of recent.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, what, the Kumba is still open. Trix does like that. I'm trying to think what else he really, I mean, you know, he's been playing Smite for so long. He's got to have a few picks in the back pocket there, but notably, you know, the Khepri doesn't really fit his play style. He wants to get aggressive. The Ganesha or the Kumba, that's probably what I'm leaning towards right now to see what Trix will try and couple up this Chernobog with in the duo lane. But the Ho-Yi for the Aaru Scorpions, the Ymir and the Ho-Yi, that's going to be a pretty, you know, monstrous duo lane. If you're able to put the wall up, you can get a pretty confirmed double bounce as well. Just going to show some aggression there in that duo that you know Trix would love to try and match, but it looks like Deathwalker is going to play the tier, something that I haven't seen in quite some time, but I always get excited when I do see it.
Oh, you got the call on the Ganesh, you know, between Kumba or Ganesh. Which one does he go with? It'll be at least the Ganesh in this case. And funny enough, those 3 bans by the Scorpions against Trixtank specifically are the 3 gods he has played the most competitively. Fafnir, Sobek, and Terra, respectively, have been his top 3 most played gods and 3 of his most winning gods out there as well. But if Vamana for the final pick of the Aaru Scorpions, so still going with another auto attack jungler, but one that's really only risen as of recent, Trelly.
Yeah, it's interesting because they just had the Erlang falls off a bit late. Same sort of style with the Vamana. You're going to have some early presence once you get like 1 or 2 auto attack items. You're going to be swinging, but after that with some anti-heal, Vamana definitely falls off as well.
Well, let's jump right into game number 2 between Hex Mambo and Aaru Scorpions. We'll delay no further. See how this matchup will pan out. A 1-0 start for Hex Mambo, the current undefeated set team at the very least throughout the EU SCC. And the Aaru Scorpions, if they can find an upset up against the Hex Mambo in this game and potentially even in game number 3 if that continues through, could shake up at least the top end of the standings. Predss went for an invade at the bottom end, and we did see Trixtank already there recognizing that that was something that potentially could have happened. We've been seeing this with Ymirs more often than not, where you get that extra damage from your Frostbite passive, so you try and go for an invade, and this time comes up, well, unsuccessful at least for Predss. Now Trixtank extra slow, not just from the Invader's Curse, but also just from the slow out of Predss. That was a very slow elephant.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to try and outburst the Ymir as a Ganesh, but as long as you bring that hog, you should be just fine. What it did do, however, was get the hog down, so maybe Predss and Davy try to invade that second purple buff, which can't be hogged away. And it looks like Trix will just have to sprint away, just because a little bit of early aggression coming from the opposition there. As I already highlighted, Ymir and Ho-Yi probably going to get the better of this lane for quite some time.
Dzoni going to lose out on a little bit of that early poke. We know just how capable Huang is at being able to get early pressure, couple that with the Vamana. And there's some decent range between the both of them to clear out these waves. Zyrhoes and Dzoni will be fine in the mid, though. And we've seen one too many times, and I'll just say, Troy, we've seen one too many times where players underestimate the damage output of a Huang early, especially when you couple it with basically any other god right next to him. So I'm glad that we're seeing players start to finally put some respect on this mid lane mage.
Yeah, and it looks like Pikarino's putting some respect on the Conduit gem start, but now Zyrhoes is like, hey, I'm probably going to be stacking a lot, so I'm going the Sands of Time. Really just depends on the style of build you do want to go for. And finally, I get to see a tier in the solo lane. It's been such a long time. Just regular Bluestone into the breastplate, wanting to get your CDR as much as possible. You got a ton of abilities, and you want to make sure that they're all up when you want. And, you know, I want to see that this late game team play as much as you can make your presence known. Tier, one of the more difficult characters to play against. There was a time when this movement speed tier was running the meta, sort of falling off, but as long as you're hitting those fearlesses, you should be having a good time, not only in lane, specifically against the Bellona. You can knock up through that bludgeon. You also should be able to displace the opposition and find some early rallies.
We'll see what Deathwalker is able to do with this tier. If I remember correctly, when we had I think it was a pregame interview with him, and he was talking about his opponent Beazriel at the time. And Beazriel was kind of one who brought the tier back into the scene for the EUSCC. I think I remember Deathwalker saying how Beazriel had one of the better tiers in the league. Predss will be able to make it out there. Had one of the better tiers in that solo lane matchup. It's something that they never wanted to give over to him. And now we're going to see exactly how Deathwalker can pilot this god.
Yeah, Trix is going to go for the invade, as we just saw Predss go for the invade. Doesn't have too much of a chance at a steal, but Turning Fate does good damage, and they're just going to wait that one out. So once again, Predss goes for the invade, doesn't get anything done, has to sprint away, and vice versa. Trix goes for it, but holds on to his sprint. So that's a net dub, relic-wise, for Hex Mambo. They are a little bit up in gold as well, just superior farming throughout the map. And I imagine, you know, Deathwalker's been on top of those farm camps, but so has Panvich. So I think pretty fair throughout. It's just the XP lead also in favor of Deathwalker. He ticked over to level 5 first. We're seeing some of that tier aggression that you would expect to see in that solo lane.
The double freeze by Predss actually may have just saved his life, because Trixtank and Echrome were both primed and ready to go in. He had that root sitting immediately behind Pred's back, so Echrome just needed the 2 to explode that one out and get that root combo. So Pred's finding that nice CC to save his life. And what we saw a moment ago, where Echrome and Trix were keeping the minion wave at their side of the map at that tier 1 tower, we've been seeing that start to trickle down a little bit from the SPL. I believe the Leviathans have been doing that a lot against teams. The Bolts have been a receiver of that multiple times. I know I've seen many times where Barracuda has had to sit so far back in his lane because he just can't walk that far up to a tier 1 tower line. Dzoni making a wraparound, but not going to fire out that sonic boom, holding out for the dual lane.
Yeah, it looks like Predss is very much aware of this, probably holding onto that wall just in case the ult comes through, and they're going to sit at that tower line either way. If the sonic boom connects, of course, you can just blow up the Ymir from half health pretty easily. Sonic boom into a special delivery, and it looks like Deathwalker, unfortunately, is going to lose that blue buff, as Sarpeii was able to rotate over and help out Panvich with that one. So tier without blue buff, that's never fun. And use the ultimate as well, so we're going to be a little bit less safe in this lane. It's just, I can't imagine Sarpeii finds any kill potential on a Deathwalker on a tier. Like, you have to be able to run down for such a long time on this Vamana. You need 2 items guaranteed. And just, you know, the CCR that is built into tier's passive, it's just a little bit too much to deal with. The Eagles Rally is your best tool, and it's still not going to lock him down for that long.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people forget how potent that tier passive is. The fact that you can never be CC'd for more than 1 second, and then you have the actual diminishing returns start to apply through, and you basically just never get to be locked down ever there. And now that he's throwing a Breastplate of Valor, so some defense against both Panvich and Sarpeii, means that Deathwalker should probably be fine in this lane for quite some time.
Yeah, and he just has so much built-in sustain to the kit as well. So, you know, any poke that you do try to get through him, as long as there's no anti-heal being built, which so far obviously there is not, you know, none of that poke is going to stick anyways. But, you know, stealing away his blue buff will start to hurt. So we'll have to keep our eyes on Deathwalker's farm and make sure that he's still able to, you know, get to these camps effectively. We saw Dzoni possibly go for that gank and duo, got called off. Besides that, not too much targeted aggression from either of these junglers, just more so looking for as much camps as possible. Deathwalker, however, did a little bit of a wraparound and didn't find much, and is now just going back to lane. I was going to say, like, maybe they're onto something, trying to set up for a possible invade. Missed the spawn timer on those back camps. Missed the spawn timer on Pikarino, however, who was just backing in lane. So that's about the end of it. Just went on a merry little chase, and probably going to go back for his blue buff now, as Dzoni's like, don't worry, I'll help you out this time. I know Sarpeii stole this one. I'm not going to let you get bullied, man.
Like a Deathwalker just casually walks up, drops full kit on the wave, minus ultimate obviously, and just casually strolls back into jungle. Just business as usual for him on this tier. Very easy cut and straightforward kind of a clear that tier has compared to some of the other warriors in the game. Same thing with Pikarino on this Huang at least, able to stack up some of those minions thanks to those chain lightning autos that come through from his passive, and able to get a nice and easy clear out there in the mid. So very passive across the board so far. I mean, we're pushing 7 minutes in, and we haven't really seen much fighting to be had. We've seen a couple of attempts at buff invades on the left side. We saw the one buff invade on Deathwalker's side, but not actually trying to fight Deathwalker, and all the attempted setup that's come so far.
Yeah, and it looks like Dzoni, he purchased the tier 1 wind demon there, so not going to put too much, well, I mean, it also could be Shadow Steel Shuriken. The tier 1 Shuriken is what he purchased, so not looking to get aggressive early and stack that rage up, but putting a little bit more presence on just attack speed, crit, that sort of thing. You know, to me that says Dzoni's probably not going to be forcing too much, you know, probably playing for the late game once again. You're up against a Vamana who you just, you know, you're able to just roll over once you get online, but at the moment you're probably not winning any auto attack trades with that character, as we're seeing. I mean, I guess we could call this a gank on a Deathwalker. He doesn't have a blue buff, so, you know, his mana will start to trickle down, but he's just going to be able to heal up so effectively, and Sarpeii just gives up on that one. That's kind of what I'm talking about here, as we see Predss could be into trouble.
Predss locked down, Dharmic Pillars come through to try and slow everybody else, but Sarpeii up in the Colossal Fury is losing a lot of his health bar, gonna need some extra assistance to get out. Predss walked back in, and that will seal his own fate. Zyrhoes comes up big for first blood for the Hex Mambo.
Yeah, and it looks like all starting at a fight behind the enemy red buff as Pikarino tries to answer back some of that fight. And even Deathwalker, with the blink available, was seeing maybe if he could find something in that mid lane, any sort of relic. Davy's also being wrapped around now, and is going to have to hold on to his beads as long as possible. Will go down, and unless something from Trix happens, maybe. Oh, that's a good root.
Wow.
Echrome. Wow.
Good root out there. Still, it managed to get the beads. Davy not holding on to them this time when a special delivery comes through. And Hex Mambo, out of nowhere, have jumped themselves up now 1,600 gold. A very aggressive last minute of the game nets them 2 kills, the first blood bounty, and just a little bit more. Hex Mambo now starting to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, the ball is definitely rolling. Not gonna be any objective pulls just yet, as you know, Pyromancer doesn't spawn in for another minute and 10 seconds, and a Gold Fury this early on after you use so much on the team fight specifically isn't going to be your best option. So just going back to the farm game, getting some of those items online. I do expect to see some aggression towards that Pyromancer once it does spawn in, but given the position we're in right now, Hex Mambo should just be trying to, you know, kind of coast until that becomes possible. Predss showed a little bit of aggression here, warded behind the tower there just in case Dzoni goes for an ult onto Davy with the beads down. This Hoyi could be a decent target, but I imagine Echrome probably crawled that out. Like, hey, there's a ward here, so if you are going to ult him, don't go from behind the tower, go from up top. And look where Dzoni is right now, not underneath, he's going around.
From above, beads still down by Davy, but Dzoni did walk over a ward. Doesn't matter, special delivery is good. Dive bomb in, Dzoni's still holding on to ultimate, but might not end up even using it. Dharmic Pillars over the wall. Enough to set up for the kill. Echrome gets the credit to it, but Predss gets knocked up as soon as he throws the wall, and he's surrounded by 4. A throwback from Dzoni, a knockback from Zyrhoes, and the fire bolts from the home sweet home take him down.
Wow, well, I mean, first of all, what a beautiful Dharmic Pillars by Trixtank over the wall. Instantly gets 2 ticks there when able to kill. Gives the kill over to Echrome because Ganesha can't confirm the kill for himself. Sarpeii, however, has made the late rotation over, trying to find any sort of pick here. Dzoni has ultimate, so isn't in any sort of danger. Zyrhoes, however, will beats out that umbrella because a little bit afraid of the slow after the fact.
Oh no, Zyrhoes is trying to run away. The sprint comes through to give him some extra movement speed. And then he's got the blast off as well. Good double root by Pikarino. Slows down Trixtank and Dzoni, but Deathwalker is here over the wall. Needs one connection onto Sarpeii. The dash will be silenced out, but a wall from Predss makes sure the Aaru Scorpions jungler can find a path on out. The red buff that was invaded earlier on didn't actually get fully dropped, got low. But for now, Aaru Scorpions can go back, confirm that one, and Hex Mambo can disengage from the fight, or try to. Panvich comes back.
Dzoni had no idea Panvich was there. That was just the reaction time of rally here. Okay, I'm going to immediately turn around, juke that one out, and go back to farming. I mean, if that's me, maybe I get hit beads and dash away, but no shot. I'm shooting it just off the sound cue alone. Dzoni is locked in and ready at any moment. to be getting ganked. Panvich did have an XP lead just before that fight. Deathwalker made the rotation in, whereas this Bellona has just been sitting in lane farming up effectively. But, you know, with Wingblade, with the breastplate, Deathwalker can sort of just proxy farm these waves with no fear. If Sarpeii comes for the gank, it's just going to be Umbrella Rang, oh, I sped you up, okay, bye. And that's sort of the end of it. There is just no way you're sticking to this tier. Now, attempting to invade speed buff. That's what this pick is able to do. Just so safe. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to proxy. Unfortunately, he missed that wave, so now he's got to go between the towers. I was going to say, proxy at Phoenix, why not? No one on this map can kill him right now.
Yeah. Doesn't have his teleport, though, so would need to be a little bit careful. Predss, the only one really down with a significant XP differential right now. It's 2 levels between the 2 supports. But a 2,000 gold lead. The Sun's rained down. Echrome's got beads. A jump in by Davy, but not much more than there. Echrome using the relic, probably didn't want to. Sarpeii gets caught out into the Colossal Fury. He will go. Dzoni holding on to that Sonic Boom, waiting for an opportunity to use it, but instead uses the Major Look, charges up Sonic Boom, doesn't use it right back. Needs some assistance from Deathwalker to maybe close this one out. Gets the pickup, throws him against the wall, and right into a coffin.
Yeah, that's a lot of crit damage coming from Dzoni. You know, the only thing you don't want to do is box the baby. Once he's back into his regular form, you're like, okay, yeah, now we can fight. Sure, I'm not afraid of you anymore. You're not, you know, 16 feet tall and stomping on me, and Dzoni's not going to be a one to turn away from that fight either. So another kill, 5-0 for Hex Mambo. And now it's time for Deathwalker to continue what he's been doing thus far, right? He's looking at this wave, and he's able to proxy farm so effectively. I'm surprised we still haven't seen Hex Mambo look towards that gold fear. I mean, they're not ones to get too aggressive, as we do see a pause come through. But with a lead like this, I would not be surprised if the gold fear would just be melted, given the fact that they have so many items online.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at like a 2,500 gold lead for Hex Mambo at this point. Pressure across the map. They've got a Ganesha to maybe be able to try and push one of these objectives down. So, I mean, whether that be a Gold Fury or a Pyromancer, definitely got to imagine the Hex Mambo are looking towards one of these objectives to kind of get themselves started up. Maybe if they can find another pick to do so. Finding one on Sarpeii was definitely a great start that they could have gone towards one of those, but for now, as we wait to get back into the action, Hex Mambo with this very slight lead, and it kind of just started up right around that 7.5, 8 minute mark where it was 0-0, and then we saw a team fight break out right behind the enemy red buff territory, and from that point on, it's been all Hex Mambo, Charlie.
Yeah, wherever they can find some aggression, they're looking for it. They were able to force out Davy's beads so early on, and then, you know, the gank, re-gank situation always rears its ugly head. If you use your beads and you die, you're probably on a short timer for another death, or you're giving up a ton of farm in the meantime when your beads are coming up. So I do think they have like a ton of burn with their auto attackers, and Deathwalker has so much presence on the map at the moment. He's able to proxy, run at speed buff, you know, do whatever he wants on this tier. You always have to be like, hey, he's stealing our camp. Should we rotate over? Once you have 2 bodies on Deathwalker, hey guys, Gold Fury should be pretty free. Look for that. You always got to watch out for the Suns, though. That's going to be a get off the objective card, of course. So I think Mambo are playing it as smart as they can, given this situation.
Yeah, the Suns, while they don't do a whole lot of damage individually, can put at least a decent bit of threat onto an objective if enough of them stack up. Unfortunately for now, Hex Mambo are going to be playing without Dzoni. Have been informed that he is currently DC'd from the game, attempting to get himself back in, but for the moment, playing a man down, especially the man who has a lot of that momentum, 2-0-3, been a part of 100% of the kills for Hex Mambo. It's going to make it tough for them to fight without their jungler.
Yeah, you know, there is a benefit to this, and that's that Hex Mambo can steal his farm, you know? Go take a speed buff, get ahead as much as you can. Trixtank is going to act as the pseudo-jungler in that place. I mean, there is XP leads throughout. I imagine if you could just find a pick beforehand, Hex Mambo still have an opportunity to try and look for some ways to fight. But, you know, we were just talking about before the break how I'm surprised they're not looking for some Gold Furies, things like that. I don't imagine that's on the cards at the moment. Probably just playing stall duty until, you know, Dzoni can get, you know, his internet back on or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe a pet knocked over the tower or turned it off or something. There have been too many instances where we have actually heard from players like, oh, my cat stepped on my power button or something like that and turned off the PC.
It happens. It certainly happens.
And it's always so odd. It's like, well, why don't you put a cover on? It's like, well, then they just start pawing at the cover until they knock the cover off, and then they knock the PC. So people's pets and computers, man, I don't get it. We've had so many of them throughout the course of competitive history entirely.
Yeah, whenever the players are playing from home, you could always see Bear like with his face cam on, and it's just whatever, you know, like you see the cat like behind him when he's playing, and I'm like, you're playing like a very serious game of SMITE here, and you can just see like your cat on your shoulder, but you know, pet love triumphs all. It doesn't matter, you know, even if you're in the SMITE queues, you gotta be showing that level. Either way, given the flip side, we've already talked about what Hex Mambo can do to stay in this game. The Aaru Scorpions, they gotta get aggressive, you know, they gotta use whatever avenue they can to get back into this and try and find some of that gold. Pyromancer's up. We haven't seen them try and force anything just yet.
For now, Hex Mambo are still holding on to their lead. Aaru Scorpions haven't done much with the fact that Dzoni is not here. 2,600 gold, 4,500 XP. You can see it's starting to plateau at least a little bit there because they are obviously Hex Mambo are down a man to try and farm. Echrome rotate on, good wall from Predss. Will get the beads and the sprute there just to guarantee ultimate as well. A lot of safety tools taken away from Echrome. He goes back in, gets some good damage up against Predss. Half HP almost on the support. Now a Trixtank's rotating over. Hunter should be good for now.
Yeah, it looks like the Trebuchet is running down left, so a little bit of aggression in that lane, as it looks like also the Aaru Scorpions get the Oracles onto Gold Fury, but they aren't going to pull it. It looks like they're just trying to use this Trebuchet to force as much as they can, maybe steal away a purple buff in the meantime, and then look for a tier 1 tower just to try and get that one down. So much damage coming from Pikarino. This is a 4-man grouping on the tower, and this I imagine they're not going to try and form a defense here, but it looks like Sarpeii and Pikarino are going to bail and just go for red buff, so maybe a small form of defense onto this tower. The Trebuchet certainly should be able to finish it.
Yeah, that Trebuchet will deal the last tick once that final fireball comes through. Should drop the tier 1 tower down, add a little bit of gold to the pockets of the Aaru Scorpions. Such a satisfying thing seeing the Trebuchet actually get that final blow.
That's a clunk. Like, you could tell that did a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's a good thud.
Yeah, it's got some good noise. Like, there's so many SMITE abilities that have like satisfying noises, like Ratatosker 3, for example. You know, like the wood sound,
the acorn
like
stun. Yes.
Yeah,
it's so good.
So I think we need to get some thud coming from the Trebuchet when it does last hit something. Like, I want noises. I want to know that a flaming rock was just sent through the heavens and landed onto my tower and then net the other team so much gold in the process.
I think Dave earlier was talking about the tennis skin on Freya having some of the most satisfying autos in the game, and I have to agree with him there. I do think that that's one of the more satisfying skin combos in the game when it comes to autos and whatnot. Pyromancer started up by the Scorpions. Deathwalker trying to start them, but Deathwalker's in the middle of 4. Will find a push onto 2 into a turn of fate, but not much more beyond there. Pyromancer pulled back up. Deathwalker goes back in against Sarpeii, and we'll get the Colossal Fury out of him. Deathwalker does find a push against Predss, shoves him against the wall, and the Firebolts once again from Zyrhoes. We'll find another kill. 6 now for Hex Mambo, and Panvich forced the Eagles rally out.
Wow, I mean, given the fact that it's a 4v5, you'd think Hex Mambo at the disadvantage, but Davy's in left lane, and guess what? Echrome can teleport here whenever he wants, so now it's back to being a 4v4. If that fight goes a little bit worse, maybe Hex Mambo can look towards Fire Giant there, but Pyromancer got dropped, and Davy will get some free farm in the meantime up against this tier 2. But who's going to stop it? It's actually Deathwalker who's on the way to stop that in left, where it looks like the dual lane's pulling Pyromancer with just Panvich to try and defend.
Panvich is here, but no Eagles rally, so he's not willing to step up to try and stop this one. Hex Mambo, even despite the fact that they are down Dzoni at this point, they're fighting in this 4v5, they're maintaining parity at the very least. You can see it's slowly starting to trickle back down towards Aaru Scorpions, but again, that's just the fact that there's one person missing from the team not getting some of that extra gold and XP.
Zero speed, though.
So the fact that Hex Mambo are even able to somewhat stay even in a one-man deficit is very impressive by this team.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. When Johnny's gone, now Zyrhoes gets speed. Someone could take red buff. You just get to steal his farm. It's a benefit when you're ahead. You know, they're just able to play with this so well. Of course, there will be a point where you're not able to find picks, and the Aaru Scorpions will just be able to use sheer numbers. But at the moment, that gold lead should be a climbing. However, the Aaru Scorpions are going to be beating away at the Gold Fury. It's just Deathwalker here, and that was enough for them to call off. Wow, I'm amazed at just this tier. I mean, we saw what just happened at Pyro. They tried to pull it. He got a double Fearless, and they lost that fight. They're like, okay, we got to put some respect on this tier, guys. Get away from that Fury.
And then he got another Fearless on Panvich under the tier 1 tower. And I almost said it was a Blink one. Then I looked, I'm like, no, this Blink cooldown is so close to being back up. It couldn't have been that. And then I look, and he picked up a Relic Dagger. So yeah, Blink Fearless under that tier 1 tower. And kind of giving an homage to the old movement speed build that was so popular on tier, I think it's like, what, like a season and a half ago or so?
Yeah, this was what I was talking about when I saw the tier locked in. Like, at the time, tier ran the meta with that movement speed build. Then that build alone got just movement speed nerfed throughout the board, and turns out
it's a good stat.
It still works. Like, Wingblade on breastplate tier still works. You can get the Relic Dagger if you really want those relics back up, and the Hide of the Urchin if you can get some stacks online. it's going to be hard to, number one, lock down this tier, but just burn through that HP. Not too much anti-heal being built by the opposition. In fact, I see none, just from a quick glance, and I don't have to worry about that. But actually, you know, I just noticed there's no Onk purchase from Trixtank, just the Horrific and the Sprint, so not putting too much respect on the Colossal Fury from Sarpeii either.
Yeah, typically that has been the answer. When we see a Vamana, we see that Cursed Onk right away, and usually upgrade to the Drowned Onk almost immediately to make sure that you can start stealing away some of that HP, giving it over to your team, obviously also reducing the heals that Sarpeii would have had. So interesting to see that that is not the decision there. I will say, I think Deathwalker should have committed to the full movement speed build. You go Warlock, or not Warlocks, you go War Flag.
Okay.
And then you get a Talisman of Energy later down the build. You don't have to get it right away. But then you go 3 of the Blades as well. You go Witchblade. Actually, you can just go the whole tree at that point.
Just get them all.
No, because you need regrowth in there as well. So you get regrowth at 3 of the Blades along with Talisman of Energy. You're zooming and you have like 4k HP by the end of it. Maybe not a whole lot of protection, but you're zooming. Just like the Gold Fury's health is zooming down to nothing. Aaru Scorpions started up.
You got it.
And Dharmic Pillars
left it on the ult.
What does Dharmic Pillars do for a second hit? 56 damage.
You know, you can move the Gold Fury.
You could just get rid of it for now. You could just walk away. Are you kidding me?
Maybe the Scorpions just feel bad that Johnny's DC, and they're like, let's just...
Giving him a pity Gold Fury? I wouldn't do that.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
I'd be invading their jungle on cooldown, taking everything that they own. I'm not giving them pity nothing because their player is gone.
I mean, that's the only... I'm trying to figure out why they didn't either A, reset it, or B, just move it off the Dharmic Pillars after the first tick, but I guess overconfidence, like surely full tank Ganesha doesn't steal this. Well, it did.
Surely my 500 damage Phoenix Fire from Pikarino should be able to secure an objective. I guess not in this case. Hex Mambo get the Fury, and maybe a little bit more. The Sprute comes out from Predss, and that will keep Deathwalker. I was just thinking about Johnny for a moment because he's still gone. We were talking about him. It keeps Deathwalker at bay. Imagine if the Sprute could hit Johnny from that distance. That'd be the most OP relic in the game. But
yeah, you just root literally everyone
global
on the map.
roots.
It's the global root, like old Terra ult. Just no matter where you are, you're getting rooted. That'd be so clutch. You could just look over like a solo lane fight. Like, I got you guys. Just root. You could set up so much damage, but no.
We don't have very many of those full global affecting ults anymore, do we? We've got Shibalanke's blind.
Right.
We got Nua's ultimate. I think that's about it at this point, or immediately that I can think of right away.
What you call like Neath ult, because no matter where they are, you
but
can
that doesn't
hit
affect
them.
everybody.
Okay,
I'm talking
you're
affecting everybody.
affecting
A map-wide, team-wide affecting ultimate. I think it's only those 2 right off the top of my head. I could be mistaken. It is early.
Well, yeah, I mean, off the top of my head as well, I'm gonna agree with you, and I miss them. I miss being like Terra support and looking over at a solo lane fight and be like, don't worry, I got you. It works now, and we are seeing Zyrhoes actually beads to make sure that he confirms his own red buff. He wasn't worried about damage. The only one here is Predss, so that was just like, you can't steal my farm. And you can also tell that Zyrhoes has the option to get his red buff whenever he wants, but he's consistently picking up that speed buff. He's just like, you know what, I'm gonna abuse this fact as much as possible. I really want that buff.
He's like, I never get to have this buff. This is my chance. This is my opportunity to have something. Trixtank and Zyrhoes now walking in. Pyromancer started up. And please, Lord, don't let this one get stolen away. It will not. Aaru Scorpions finally get an objective for themselves. And that's a net positive in their favor finally, is that it was starting to approach a 3,000 gold lead that Hex Mambo had from that Gold Fury steal earlier on. Now tipping its way back down, only towards about 2k.
What?
Sarpeii, 3rd HP, will walk away on the Colossal Fury. Predss in danger, but Deathwalker's going to be the only one to chase him. Use the beads right away. Predss will go into his own ultimate to avoid the CC coming from Deathwalker, but Deathwalker's got plenty of cooldown to chase this one out. The wall, Deathwalker goes over, Predss goes under, and will loop himself back to the rest of the team. Deathwalker can't close the kill, but Echrome can.
Yeah, it looks like Deathwalker wants to find Panvich, forces out the beats, and the Eagles rally in 4v5. Hex Mambo are not just winning, they're dominating this fight, getting the tower, and now I'm assuming heading for fire?
What? For now, maybe just Greater Scorpion, but could be setting up for a pick if Panvich walks a little too far forward. There's no Eagles rally. Everybody stepped on a ward there, so our Scorpions know what was going on with Hex Mambo, but I got to give credit where it's due, Trelly. Hex Mambo are winning a 4v5. They've only gotten 2 more kills since that time frame has happened. By the way, that was 11 minutes ago that the DC happened from Johnny. So at this point, Hex Mambo have just been winning half of the game a man down.
I mean, it has been quite some time, and it just seems like they don't really care. Deathwalker's diving in. Pikarino's very weak. Not able to go for that one as Davies in the backline putting out a ton of damage as well.
Dueling Dragons hits 3. That's a lot of damage out of Pikarino. Not enough to get a kill. Predss finds a great double wall, a double freeze, but immediately gets rooted himself in place. Deathwalker will go down. And Davey finally picking up the first kill for the Aaru Scorpions in a much-needed push to go back in. Sarpeii finds Zyrhoes. Zyrhoes gets the blast off, but once again up to Colossal Fury, and another big wall by Predss. Locks down 2, and the Aaru Scorpions back.
Yeah, and this is sort of what I was waiting for. Echrome is losing that boxing battle, and it was eventually, it had to stop, right? Hex Mambo were just dominating that fight 4v5, chased a little bit too far, and finally will end up going down. Echrome, the only one alive, and not going to be able to get back in time for that Fire Giant, unless he wanted to ult in with 1 HP, and it looks like he does not want to do that, so just going to be going for as much farm as possible. And the Aaru Scorpions, for the first time, are up in gold, and for the first time, have themselves a Fire Giant. They're going to be able to push down as much as they really want and try to enhance this lead as much as possible, whereas, you know, the Hex Mambo, they got to try and defend 4v5 up against this Fire Giant.
Yeah, quite the spike for the Aaru Scorpions. We're 2K down, now 3K up, so quick math, a 5,000 gold swing for the Aaru Scorpions off of just those 3 kills, a Fire Giant as well, and now able to push up any of these lanes that they need. And now that we've gotten to see kind of the downside of being down a man for Hex Mambo is just there's not enough bodies and there's not really a whole lot of sustain for Hex Mambo. So sticking around in these long team fights, these very drawn out battles is just going to favor the team with more people there.
Yeah, and it looks like that's going to be the option. This time Trix actually steals Zyrhoes' speed buff, so I'm pretty mad about that one. I enjoyed the quick house, and now we get to see the quick elephant. It's still cool, but, you know, once you're in home sweet home, it's nice to be zooming around the map as much as you really can. Deathwalker's going to try and get rid of these minions and try to slow the siege as much as possible, but that left lane is where the Aaru Scorpions are looking, so everyone's going to have to get back as quick as possible if they want to try and keep this Phoenix standing.
Ball goes up by Predss. Freeze gets immune by Zyrhoes' ultimate, but Sarpeii is a little bit bigger himself. Will take down one with the help of David, but Sarpeii does not have enough backup in the back line of Hex Mambo. Dharmic Pillars go through, slow down Panvich, but Predss will once again throw up a wall to keep the carries back. Deathwalker finds a push onto 1, but the Phoenix is the primary target. Davey does find Echrome. That's 2 for Davey in this team fight. And the left side, Phoenix goes down. It's just Trixtank and Deathwalker to defend.
Yeah, Deathwalker's wrapping around, trying to find something massive, but Trix doesn't have too much damage of his own with the ultimate down. And it looks like the Aaru Scorpions are just going to ignore and kill this Titan as quickly as they can.
Yeah, that Frenzy gets popped. Titan down to half HP. Predss with the ultimate. And the Aaru Scorpions will finally get their moment to capitalize on this DC. It took them about 14 minutes to finally get to this stage and get to this point, but gotta just take your wins whenever you can get them. Player DC, show no mercy. Take those wins.
I wanted to see Johnny come back right at that moment and just hit
see
like a massive sonic boom, like to help it defend, but unfortunately not going to be the case. And now we're in a 1-1 situation. The Mambo, they had a crazy lead there, but the Aaru Scorpions, once the baby got online and was able to just stomp on Zyrhoes in the house, there really wasn't any answer back.
Yeah, Aaru Scorpions able to capitalize off the DC. We'll hope for Hex Mambo's sake that Johnny can come back or somebody can step in for Game 3 right after this.
Close my
back to the EUSCC. Hex Mambo with an unfortunate DC in game number 2. Open up the door for the Aaru Scorpions to walk in and take themselves a nice victory to get this set now in towards game number 3. And don't worry, we do have some good news. Dzoni should be good to go and back for this third game. So now we'll at least have that closer competition that we were kind of expecting in that second game, though I can't really say it was close as an early game. Hex Mambo definitely took the lead to start things out, and it really wasn't until like that 24-minute mark, which was almost 10 or more minutes past Dzoni's DC, that we finally saw the fight back from the Scorpions.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. It seemed like even for a bit, Mambo were winning with the DC. The 4v5, they were able to win a solid fight. They were able to get a pick or two. Then they looked towards Fire Giant, and that's when it was like, wait, you guys, you know, that's a little bit too much. I mean, being up 7-0 at that point, Deathwalker just bit off a little bit more than he could chew there. The peel came through as much as possible. But this wall here that's about to come in from Predss really dispelled the defeat, I believe. Once Zyrhoes and Trix got caught, you know, the Vamana was just able to run through, and Sarpeii found so much success on this Colossal Fury just into Zyrhoes because, you know, you're such a big target, is able to shred through as much as possible.
Yeah, Davey. And you saw there is that first Fire Giant fight where the first kill of the game comes for the Scorpions. It was under the back of Davey. And then we see a double kill essentially happen under this Phoenix here. I keep saying, I don't know what it is about the Aaru Scorpions, but for some reason I keep calling their dang Phoenix a Scorpion at this point.
I know, yeah,
I think we just need to change, anytime that they're playing, we need to graphically change their Phoenixes to Scorpions, so I'm not wrong.
I mean, or you could just always call the Phoenix Phoenix. That's pretty
I could
easy.
do that too. I don't know why it's just with this team that I keep saying. It's only this team that I've done it with.
Wow, Dzoni actually outdamaged Panvich. That's kind of
wild.
That's kind of wild.
What?
That's kind of wild.
Are you serious?
That's what it says. I mean, unless the chart's lying to us.
I mean, if we're going based off what the chart is us, we're telling the production's telling us the chart is correct. So Dzoni, for 12.5 minutes of gameplay, was able to outdamage the 27 minutes of gameplay that Panvich had.
I mean,
and to be fair, not really high damage numbers throughout the majority of Aaru Scorpions. It was really mostly Pikarino and Sarpeii when it came to the end of that one, but that's just mind-blowing. I can't believe you pointed that out to me. That's kind of cursed.
I mean, it's just the fact that Deathwalker was so annoying in lane. He was proxying behind the tier 2 tower. He's almost proxying at Phoenix at that point, so what are you going to do? You're going to follow him around in lane and do damage? You're just going to get your farm, and it seemed like that was the play, so a little bit low on the damage charts, but you got the win. You can't be too mad about that.
I wonder how much of that, like, 8, almost 9,000 damage that Davey had just came from that like final 2 team fights that were there. The one that started around Fire Giant, ended in Fire Giant, and then the one that went to the Phoenix. I'm curious how much of his player damage came from just that point alone. But let's jump into picks and bans for game number 3 between Hex Mambo and Aaru Scorpions. Don't really know what much more to analyze in the game. I mean, when you have a DC, it's hard to kind of talk about that just because you're now down a man. It's going to be harder the later the game goes. But as far as the drafts were concerned, it did feel like Hex Mambo were able to get to a much stronger early lead. So if you're the Scorpions, do you maybe kind of
better early presence? And it seems like Sarpeii doesn't want to get active early. So if that's the case, then just pick a late game slay jungler in your own right. But finally, the Aaru Scorpions will put a little bit of respect towards that Mercury and take that one away. So Dzoni's going to have to find something else to play, right? You can't play the Mercury anymore. Will they also ban away Trixtank Sobek? More than likely, probably yes. So then, you know, obviously Mambo are in a position here where they have a decent idea of what they're going to be able to grab in that first pick slot. Last time it was the Chernobog. Echrome looked pretty solid on that up until the point where it fell off. So maybe they go back for something like that again.
It'll be the same bans out of Hex Mambo. No reason for them to change anything. So Nemesis, Freya, Uller continues to remain the bans for them. Amma and Mercury, so some adjustment.
Ooh.
And a Chernobog too. I want to see the Snap Lock Sobek. Just to flex on the fact that it's been banned from Hex Mambo in both these first games, I would love to see Trixtank just Snap Lock it right now.
I was going to say, they didn't do it right away.
No, he's not even going to go to it.
Yeah, that tells me they're probably, I mean,
unfortunate.
they're just afraid of the Croc. Like, it's not like Hex Mambo loves this Sobek so much. Everyone else just fears it. That's what it is. It's not like we're banning it away because you guys played so much. Trick is like, bro, I'll play anything. Like, I don't care what you ban. So we're going to continuously see that Sobek banned away, but Hex Mambo, they're not going to grab it. They're going to grab the Fafnir, and once again, the Aaru Scorpions are going to first pick that Huang. That seems to be something they're very confident on. What they are going to switch up, however, is not the Ymir. They're going to grab the Khepri this time around. They want some extra safety. They want that Scarab's Blessing to deny some of that early aggression from Mambo. I like the adaptation here from the Scorpions.
With that kept bringing Huang, and now Baba Yaga once again back over to Zyrhoes. He had some good early picks during that game, especially some of those jungle team fights that were happening. That one that started up over by the red buff earlier on in the game, Zyrhoes was able to find quite a lot of damage, at least with that magic, those magic bolts that were coming from the home sweet home. And now Deathwalker's going to be the one to go to the Bellona. So tired of playing the tier. I don't know why. I mean, had a great game on it last time around, made some really good plays, but gonna force Panvich to go back to something else. Maybe if that's for Panvich is better, though, as we saw, wasn't able to really get anything going that game for himself. Yeah,
the Bellona pick has just been getting passed back and forth between the teams at the moment, and Osiris is going to be the lock here for the Aaru Scorpions, notably a very strong jungler and still a pretty decent solo laner as well, so we're going to hold on to the ambiguity of that pick as this matchup goes on. But Bellona v Osiris in the solo lane, a matchup that's been around for quite some time. Both of these auto attackers have been, dominating that lane for a while. Going into the second phase of bans, of course, the Aaru Scorpions are still going to take away that Hoonbats. That's not going to change, but the Kali is going to be the other ban here. So, once again, digging pretty deep to make sure that Johnny doesn't get something he's comfortable with.
Yeah, now we have 3 dedicated bans over towards Johnny with that Mercury from the very beginning. And now the Achilles. We've been seeing a little bit of Achilles pop back up at the SPL in the jungle. I believe Layer's one of the players who's been doing that. Cuvo Fred as well. Been piling that God, so interesting to see that that's starting to trickle down at least a little bit when it comes down to the SCC. With the Chiron lock-in, it still leaves a little bit up on the air whether this Osiris is going to the solo lane or potentially still making its way into the jungle trolley.
I love that when you lock in Rama, he laughs.
He laughs at you.
Usually it's a voice line or two, but Rama's one of the few that actually just laughs at you when he locks him in. So
good.
We're going to see some pressure hopefully from that. And the Bakasura, who also laughs by the way, is going to be locked in place. Maybe that's why they did it. Either way, I'm expecting to see some early aggression from Johnny on this pick and just power farm. I want to see what the Aaru Scorpions pick here. It's going to be the Robin, so that tells me I think the Osiris is going to be taking the jungle then, and Osiris in the solo lane. There is certainly some flip-flop available, but you got to try and get as much farm online as possible, and Osiris can go the Golden Blade and try and match what Bakasura is able to do farm-wise. Robin really can't keep up with that.
We'll have to see where the Osiris and the Robin go for the Aaru Scorpions. Hex Mambo, Aaru Scorpions, game 3, 1-1, and only one team can take this third one and continue to push themselves on. Remember, it is the final week for the SCC play before moving in towards relegation. For these two teams, that doesn't necessarily matter because all they got to do is just fight for first versus second seed. But still a lot on the line for those ones. Can Hex Mambo keep their undefeated streak? We'll find out in this third game as J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug one more time for this early set. Deathwalker going to be on to the Bellona. So it will be the Robin solo, but not going for the standard kind of mitigation build that we've been seeing as of recent. Not going for that Sigil. Not even going towards kind of that mitigated one where we've seen like the Bluestone for that early clear.
I love seeing this from Panvich. This has been a really popular start up against when you are facing a Bakasura. You leave the little minion there for the blue buff, and then once the buff spawns in, Johnny's going to be sitting there waiting to try and get the blue buff, and it's just never going to spawn in because you haven't killed it just yet. So Panvich trying to counter out this aggression from Johnny early on. And you're seeing the breadcrumbs laid out very early on, not letting this Bakasura snowball.
If we want to talk about players and gods with winning combos, we were talking about Trixtank's Sobek. Well, Johnny as well on Bakasura. Pretty impressive stat line for himself. 25 games played, 88% win rate with a 4.6 KDA. That's some good numbers if you're trying to win yourself a game 3 to put Johnny on.
Yeah, I mean, that's just... There's a lot of good numbers on Hex Mambo, huh?
It really is.
I mean, what was the Fafnir again? It was close.
The Fafnir was like 82%, I believe.
And there's just a lot of dubs coming the way of Hex Mambo, and they're trying to continue that as much. Wow.
Good players on that team, too.
You talk about the #1 undefeated team's pretty good?
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
What a concept, huh? You're probably #1 for a reason, if I'd imagine so. Sarpeii eats some damage in mid. Should be fine, though. No further follow-up from Johnny or Zyrhoes. No real lockdown from these two. At least not until that level 5 comes through, and then we can get Johnny with his ultimate, though that's not really kind of a true lockdown. That's just you're moving a little bit slower and you can't jump out of here just yet.
Yeah, I'm really angry at the fact that, like, because you're CC immune in the Celestial Flight from Huang. Johnny is going to be blinked on by Sarpeii, and it looks like Zyrhoes is going to have to play poke duty to try and help him out.
Oh, barely jumps away in time for there. Johnny almost goes down. to the damage from Pikarino for a first blood, but narrowly squeaks by, able to find that leap just in time.
Yeah, that was a close one. The Flames of the Phoenix almost able to confirm that kill, as it looks like Dzoni isn't even going for any sort of invade here. His health bar is looking a little bit too worse for wear, so just going to help out Deathwalker with his own blue buff. Going to be a better option. But what I was saying, though, is, you know, Pikarino on this Huang, you're CC immune in the Celestial Flight, but to get up into that, you can't be in the cripple goo, so in an annoying matchup, you still have to use your beads before you go up into the sky to avoid some of that regurgitate damage. And it's just an annoying matchup to deal with. You like to think you're so safe. You got your own like CC immune, like Vanish, but you still got to hold on to those beads or the Dueling Dragons if you want to get out of that cripple goo.
I always just hate hearing. I think that's the tamest way to call it, is the cripple goo. I don't like any of the other things. I don't even like the actual name of the ability itself. It makes me want to regurgitate my lunch hearing that kind of stuff, but back in Zula, I'll try not to stray us off on that tangent any further. We've gone down that road so many times at this point, but Deathwalker does hit level 5 over Panvich. We can see where that delayed blue buff comes in handy as Sarpeii rotates over to make sure that Panvich does get that one for himself. Meanwhile, Deathwalker will walk up, drop the ward, and see that the blue buff has only just now gone down.
Yeah, it's one thing. Yeah, if Dzoni went for the invade, it would have been a great play. Unfortunately, he didn't. So Panvich essentially just lost some extra farm, and now is going to be sitting on not too much mana. As we see Sarpeii going for the gank, but an up down from Deathwalker, because guess who's here? It's Dzoni.
Dzoni is popped in, drops Regurgitate, but it's an ultimate from Sarpeii to get some decent damage out. Sarpeii still fighting back, but everything except for Panvich's ultimate, which just came up during the tail end of that fight, used on the right side, but no deaths come the way just yet. 4 minutes in, still 0-0.
Yeah, Dzoni didn't back yet. He didn't have the Golden Blade finish. He has the gold in hand to get close. Yeah, now he's got 1,500, so now he's able to get that Golden Blade online, but just he didn't back and spend that gold, so that was the old, you know, tier 1 katana regurgitate that just doesn't give you enough movement speed, not enough, you know, damage to finish that one off. As possible gank, re-gank situation. Sarpeii is here, has blink in hand, but Deathwalker was a little bit aware and just shield bashes away. Not going to try and get the first blood given up that easily.
How do you kind of feel about the Warriors axe right now? It's not we've been seeing occasionally pop its way back. Sometimes when we see like a Jormungandr, it'll jump its way in, but it's not as common as it once used to be. I mean, how do you feel about this starter right now, Trelly?
Yeah, it really just depends. I like the Bumba's Hammer so much. You know, I like the Sigil start is a little bit annoying, but it certainly works. So if you're going for a more sustained route and you want to go for like the Hero's Axe later on, it's certainly a decent option. It's just, I think you're giving up a little bit of early presence, and that's why we're seeing the net worth charts. You know, Bellona's just going to be a little bit ahead as this game goes on, about 200, 300 gold in the lead, and I think that trend will continue. You're just forfeiting a little bit of early presence for safety.
Davey got so scared trying to secure his own purple buff. He used essentially his entire kit, sans ultimate, to secure that one up against Trixtank. And we preached it time and time again. It's just the Fafnir. Just stand in front of the hammer. Deathwalker has ult, gets stunned out. At least by Sarpeii, will find the dash. Eagles Rally's got to be used if he wants a path out. Maybe just Dzoni is enough. No, Lord of the Afterlife misses. But Deathwalker still goes down. Panvich strikes first blood for the Scorpions.
Yeah, it seemed like Deathwalker did not want to use the ultimate there. Just, you know, it was a lot of damage he took, and maybe thought Dzoni would rotate in a little bit quicker, or just didn't expect that much damage to be done. Either way, holds on to that ultimate and just decides to go down. Panvich still had Mystic Rush if he wanted to chase down. I don't think there's any way Bellona's getting away, and Deathwalker knew that. So first blood going the way of the Aaru Scorpions. Only 300 gold in the lead are the Scorpions, because Hex Mambo's been farming so effectively and, you know, trying to get their invades online, and at least having a fair bit of vision on that left side of the map, as Trix has been stepping up so much. You know, Predss has the Scarab's Blessing and is extremely safe on this Temporary, but you can't play the same sort of style. You can't frontline as Trixtank has been doing. You don't have that long-range leap to get out of trouble if you are stepping up a little bit too far.
Aaru Scorpions, even with that first blood, they'll be able to keep themselves at least a small lead to start things out. 300 gold, but XP bouncing back and forth this early in the game, having it bounce between a couple hundred here and there. Definitely not the end of the world. Panvich taking over to level 8. Gotta imagine Glad Shield probably gonna be that first item for him. That's kind of been the more popular one that we've been seeing as a solo recently.
Yeah, I think Robin solo, it's usually the only damage you build, right? You go like Glad Shield and you're saying, hey, the more protections I build, the more value I'm gonna get. So I'm going to go for like the Oni Hunter's Garb and maybe a Soul Eater if I really want the sustain, but usually that's early on. and just trusting that Glad Shield will be able to carry you as the game continues. I think the itemization here from Panvich is about as correct as you can get. You know, double Fizz Prot, you're up against a Bellona and a Bakasura who continuously want to try and brawl with you at your blue buff. Probably a Sovereignty and a Glad Shield. Going to be a smart option, I would say.
Oh, we'll see how his build pans out as the rest of the game goes.
No, Panvich.
No, but Panvich's build pans out.
Oh, okay, that's my bad.
Yeah. Yeah. The player then pans out. I wasn't trying to make a pun with his name, but as soon as I said, I'm like, nah, we're just going to keep going with it, and hopefully nobody calls me out, but you did.
I didn't call you out. We got some wordplay. There's not any fighting happening.
Yeah, we get a lot of fun wordplay with some of these names, some of these teams out here sometimes. And ever since we have franchised at least the SCC teams, we've been seeing a lot less of the some of the more annoying teams to kind of talk about, especially when they put like player name as the team. You always have to really differentiate the two. Like, you're not talking about the player, you're talking about the team.
Yeah, like the Kazakhs fan club.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Well, the thing is that Kazakhs wasn't on that team.
Yeah.
So it was just a fan club to the player who wasn't on the team.
But when he was like, when they were facing him, it's just like,
Yeah,
Kazakhs
that
gets
made
taken down by the Kazakhs fan club. And
That made it awful. Then you had like Baskin and the boys, and you had to always refer to them as the boys instead, just because Baskin was with them at all times. Always had to differentiate. Always some fun names that you can. We do always get some interesting stuff. I think still my favorite to this day is Evil. Just Evil? Yeah, Evil. Every villain is lemons.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I
thought. That was the thing, is they actually had like what is it, the acronym. Like, it's
like
actually
E period, V period.
Yeah, they had that acronym there, so that way you knew that's what it was going on about.
Wow,
But
that's just a good name.
it's just a solid name. It's a good reference, a solid name, and more pressure on Deathwalker. Sarpeii has been on this side of the map the entirety of the game. Deathwalker has not been given any luxury this time, where last game, Deathwalker was proxy farming between tier 1 and tier 2 by this point?
Yeah, I mean, he has been kept relatively in check, but XP-wise is sitting just fine. Hits level 10 before Panvich, so I think Deathwalker not too worried about the amount of presence that's been given to this lane, considering the gold is relatively even. The Aaru Scorpions are climbing a bit ahead. You know, we touched on it at when First Blood happened. It was about 300 now, almost 500. I mean, it's really getting explosive.
It's getting crazy.
This is one of those situations you got to watch out. Davey getting really low, not quite in range for those snipes just yet.
He's got to watch out. Especially, he's got some help. He's got shields from Predss' passive to kind of keep him up. Dzoni rotates over, 3 versus 3, leap in by Trix. But now Trix got to turn around because Sarpeii is in the backline. Centaurus goes out, Echrome goes in the sky. Will miss the second shot, finds the third onto Sarpeii. Dueling Dragons, won't pull anybody in. It's an ultimate onto Echrome. And that scares Bless. Will make sure that Echrome can't win the boxing match. It'll be Sarpeii who gets the kill and gets himself a free ride out.
Wow, you gotta hate that. It's in one of those situations where if you don't kill Sarpeii, Echrome dies, but Echrome already died and Sarpeii gets the res off anyways. They probably would have loved to just let him in the backline and get the free kill after the fact. Pikarino has some burst for Trix, but Trix is able to jump out right before that grab comes through, so gonna be just fine. We're still CC immune as it happened. And now the Aaru Scorpions climb ahead even further. Not quite looking to go for this Gold Fury just yet. Still finding they're able to farm up more effectively and win these team fights. You know, I'm surprised that the Golden Blade Bakasura is getting behind so much in the jungle. Dzoni hasn't been able to find that much presence. You know, a gank or two, but, you know, just not able to eat enough of these buff camps. You know, gonna have some mid control going for these Harpies. Gotta give some props to Sarpeii though, able to find so much presence on this Osiris.
Even going for the execution of second item, recognizing that 3 of the players on their team are going to be benefiting from those prot shreds that come through between Davey and Panvich and himself. So grabbing that 1 second means he'll be able to easily apply those attacks. Well, he's already in the backline constantly. Why not make it a little bit easier for the dive for the rest of your team?
Yeah, it seems like the Hex Mambo once again are just playing for late game. This was sort of how they went game 1, game 2. Not so much. They were just coming out of the gates early, but now they're just trying to play back as much as they can and not overextend. I think they're pretty confident that late game they should be able to, you know, find some damage. We saw what Zyrhoes was able to do on the Baba Yaga once you get to that 20+ minute mark. So I think it's a little bit of just, you know, we'll sit back. Sure, we aren't winning these fights just yet, but confident in the late game portion of their team combos. Once again, Deathwalker reprises this Ichival style solo lane build. I joked that it was because of the energy gain, but up against Robin, same style of build. Deathwalker just, he wants to brawl, and it's just a good item to do that.
Let's actually talk about the Bakasura a little bit, because he's been rising up in the meta, especially like when 9.5 kind of came around. We saw more players starting to go towards him. Bakasura was always kind of seen as that early game kind of pub stompy style of god. You get the first 10 minutes it is like all Bakasura, and as long as you've got a decent lead, like you spiral the game out of control. Otherwise, if you're even or behind, like late game is miserable. Is it still kind of that same situation for Baka nowadays?
Yeah, I think Bakasura and Set have a very similar play style in that you either are finding someone 1v1 in the jungle and you win that 9 times out of 10, or you're going in second. You never want to be the first one initiating for your team. You know, if you're forcing leaps or relics, you're not having a great time. You want to go in after the fact when those relics are already down, those leaps are already down. So your late game is still solid if Deathwalker's creating space for you, if Trixtank's getting to the back, forcing these relics, and you're like, oh, Davey already beamed and dashed away, okay, now I'm going in. But if you're the sole engage for your team, Bakasura definitely falls off extremely hard late. You sort of just walk out of the goo, run away, and then fight after the fact. If you're fighting when Baka ults down, he's not having a good time.
For now, 13 minutes in, gold dead even between these teams, bouncing within about 100 between the two of them. Ultimate, again on Deathwalker, a double ult in, actually. And neither of them are going to find any value from it. The root missed, the Mystic Rush did connect, but Deathwalker's plenty tanky enough to be able to deal with both of them.
Yeah, he hit the old ult in, and then, or ult out, then run back one step, and was able to avoid most of that. And even if both ults did hit, it's going to be hard to dive up Bellona with this much attack speed block stacks. You're essentially 2 auto attackers once Panvich's abilities are down. So I like the attempt, you know, showing some face in that lane, trying to make sure this Bellona's not as safe as, you know, that tier was last game. But that's not going to be the case. And once again, Deathwalker gets out by the skin of his teeth. So looking at the positioning, there is some Oracle vision here for the Aaru Scorpions on this Gold Fury, but not feeling confident enough to step up. You got to look at the burn potential, and given the fact that Davy's going for this ability-based Chiron build, you're not going to be shredding through a Gold Fury too much. You don't have any confirmed burst. Like, Pikarino can bring it, but what can Pikarino do that Zyrhoes can't? Not too much. I think Baba Yaga probably wins that burst battle up until you're using like a dueling dragon to confirm that one. So you definitely got to make sure that whenever you are pulling an objective right now, you're playing to your best ability and making sure to CC these mages. Pyromancer, however, is being looked at. Sarpeii trying to step up.
It is being quickly burned down. That Coerce is going to do some good work. Sarpeii does get hit by the hammer stun, and then the stun right after. Double Eagles rally out of Deathwalker. The bludgeon will get pulled away by Predss, so no follow-up damage there. But a jump in by Trixtank just off the mark. Panvich will be able to walk through. And the damage from Pikarino also slightly off target. Hex Mambo gone back to the Pyromancer. Trixtank finds a stun. Panvich goes beyond. Mystic rushes in, but Hex Mambo confirmed the Pyromancer. Hex Mambo can find their way out.
Yeah, that was a close one. I thought once Trix transformed that it was just a bait to make sure that they could get the Pyromancer, but they sort of fell off, tried to fight for a bit, and then go back. Panvich's Mystic Rush was close, but not going to be enough to steal that one away, and Hex Mambo are going to climb that gold lead a little bit back in their favor. Still behind Aaru Scorpions in total, about 100 gold or so. But it's sort of going back and forth at this point. It really just depends on who's farming a little bit better. As Trix sees 3 Scorpions and throws a hammer and walks away. Not too much aggression happening on this side of the map. Both solo laners aren't looking for any aggression. They're just farming. So I don't imagine any sort of Gold Fury pull will be happening unless someone teleports in. And then both teleports are down, so that's not going to happen.
Trix and Zyrhoes are standing by, so mid-Harpies aren't going to be maybe as free as the Aaru Scorpions would want. In fact, they're not going to be free at all. Zyrhoes will take away some of that farm. Some of the damage from that Flames of the Phoenix out of Pikarino. Level 15 on the Huang, so slightly outpacing the XP of Zyrhoes. Meanwhile, across the board, it's pretty standard. I mean, XP gap isn't really massive anywhere. It's 1 level here or a half level there at the very most. And the gold is in that same department. I mean, Charlie, for 16 minutes in, we might as well just call this a completely dead even game.
Yeah, and I will. I will call it a completely dead even game because that's what we're looking at. And I do see Deathwalker going for that Hide the Urchin build once again. This time I want to see some stacks on it, you know? Like when you go this item, that tells me you want to get aggressive. You want to, because you're not getting the value. Mantle of Discord is just extremely better. Unless you're getting the stacks on, you're getting the value out of it being cheaper, you know, that sort of thing. So if you are going to go for the side of the Urchin, you got to get aggressive. Just the bare bones item with no stacks, I don't even think is worth it unless you're, you know, getting aggressive. But I guess that's the plan, right? Deathwalker built this auto attack style build. The Urchin will pay off dividends if you're able to find those kills, those assists, things like that. And we'll just see how the late game opts to go. as Deathwalker just wants to brawl, and that seems to be what he's been trying to do pretty much all game. I mean, all set. Really.
He took away the shield. He took away Panvich's shield, and that's about all that we can say for the entire kit minus the ultimate of Deathwalker. Panvich is now slightly less shielded. Oh, no, never mind. Shield is back. All he had to do is hit a few minions and grab it there, but Ravana really starting to become popular as of recent. We've been seeing the rise of him over in the solo lane. We even actually saw, just as of this week in SPL, him make his way into the jungle a couple of times.
What does he say when you lock him in?
I don't remember what he says.
I mean,
the only Ravana line that I remember is "Let's fix that face."
Well, yeah,
let me fix that face.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's an iconic line.
One of my favorite when you're like the MMA fighter skin.
Right.
But I want to know, because I'm trying to think, because I know.
I feel like he just says his name.
Yeah, he probably says Ravana. Yeah, that's it. You know, right when you said it, it just like brought back the memory for me.
Yeah.
So we are seeing more of this Ravana pick. Not really built this way. I will say this is a different style of build. You know, the Genji's guard over the Oni Hunter's garb. You're prioritizing a little bit of cooldowns over that mitigation style of build. I do imagine a little bit less tank stats in the late game will start to make Panvich fall off a bit, but if there is a Spirit Robe coming through, you're letting those Mystic Rushes, you shouldn't be too worried. I don't think that Echrome's doing too much damage just yet either. Goes for the Silver Branch, the bow style of build, not really having any crits online just yet as well. You do have to worry out about Zyrhoes though, because we've already seen what he can do on this Baba Yaga when there's not a, you know, a Vamana shredding through his HP, and there's nothing like that in this game. Sarpeii does have a fair bit of auto attack damage, but it's not going to be to the same extent like a Colossal Fury Vamana. I imagine someone's going to have to keep Zyrhoes in check. These home sweet homes, they're going to be swinging.
Yeah, especially because he's got a fully stacked Charon's coin, even despite being 0/0/0. Welcome to Baba Yaga and some of the benefits of her passive with that house.
What if you could give some of your stacks to your team?
Oh,
like, what if Zyrhoes could stack Deathwalker's Urchin?
Yeah, like if you already have all of your stacks up and you're full HP, it just gives a couple of stacks over to somebody else. That could be interesting, but I could see where people would cry and be like, no, I don't want to give my free healing and stacks to other people. I want to be selfish.
Oh, because you could give rage stacks to Mercury. That would be so gross. Or anyone.
That would be gross.
Yeah, anyone. You could just give rage stacks.
I hate that you mentioned that now.
Well, it doesn't exist, so don't worry.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Maybe now it's thank goodness that it doesn't exist. Giving free rage stacks to somebody, no thank you.
Yeah, the design team's just listening like, wait, mid-season patch is coming up. We're gonna
hold on, we can fix this.
Yeah, we can add this in.
Bonus patch.
Yeah, bonus patch. Baba Yaga can stack your rage for you.
Oh god.
Yeah, let's not talk about that anymore
nightmare.
because I don't want to live in a world where that is the case.
Oh, thinking about it, I think he says your time has come. Robin, when he gets locked in. When he gets locked in, it might be your time has come.
Yeah, it really just depends.
We don't know now. Now we're just speculating.
Yeah, well, that's all we have.
We'll have to pay attention next time he gets locked in.
Yeah,
if that ever happens again.
I'm gonna listen in, and I'm just gonna make sure that I'm aware of what's going on.
He's gonna keep a note. He's gonna put a tweet out about it now.
Yeah, everyone's gonna make sure that we know what is being said when that happens, and we can talk about that because the junglers aren't feeling too frisky. They're just staying back as much as possible. Pyromancer has spawned in once again, and no one's really showing any face towards it just yet.
For now, 20 minutes in, only the 2 kills to the Aaru Scorpions, 1 for Panvich, 1 for Sarpeii. That kill was up against Echrome and Deathwalker earlier on in the game. And it has just been a passive farm game for the last 12 minutes of the game. And at least for the time being, Hex Mambo have been getting a slightly more advantageous farm game for themselves. 1,500 gold up over Aaru Scorpions with, again, essentially nothing fought over. Pyromancer still stands, Gold Fury still stands. Fire Giant still a little ambitious to try and grab this early in the game, but these two teams are just more than happy with farming it. And as much as we joke about with the EUSCC and how slow some of the games go, this is why we make those jokes, because we get games like this where it's 2 kills in, nobody's really trying to fight, nobody's going for these objectives, they're just playing for that level 20 point. If you drop us into an EUSCC 9 times out of 10 at like 20-25 minutes, it's just going to be this.
Yeah, and this is the style of gameplay they want to play. Take a look at Sarpei's Relic. There's no aggression coming his way, so why not get the Horrific Emblem? You don't need beads. I mean, you should, because Trixtank has a ton of CC. You can follow up with it. But given the way that Sarpeii is playing, if you're able to use those Lord of the Afterlives for your CC immunity, I mean, the Horrific is just going to basically nullify Johnny's damage, right? If you see the Regurgitate come through, you go, pew, and then you're like, hopefully we're fine, right? You're just taking a bit of true damage. And there's a kin size comes on, you're taking that, but the attack speed, the movement speed, that sort of thing is going to be definitely dealt with if you're able to wait out that small portion where Johnny is CC immune for that slow. Stuff like that. You know, that's the amount of aggression that Sarpeii is not under. The lack thereof aggression.
The lack of threats.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
There we go, yeah. Sarpeii not under much threat right now. Oracle Harpies
Might as
will
well
get
be.
split. No, because they're actually killing this. Pyromancer isn't dying at this point.
That's a fair point. The Oracles are being looked at, but not for the Gold Fury. Just to be well aware, if anyone's at that Gold Fury, they will know.
Well, they won't because they got split, so nobody gets that vision in that case. Unfortunate for both those teams.
Unfortunate. It looks like Hex Mambo has the ward vision, and you know the Aaru Scorpions would have loved to get that. Remember when it was even? Now it's about 2K up for the Hex Mambo, so they've just been. This is why they're okay with just farming, right? They don't need to fight when they're passively getting ahead like this, hitting level 20. Getting ready to start upgrading those starters. Deathwalker, he's already done it. He's going to be healing a ton, and now able to pull this Pyromancer, and his health bar is not going to move as he pulls that Pyromancer.
Hey, Pyromancer is pulled down to a quarter HP. Predss will get spotted out by Trixtank. Pyromancer has not been leashed, and will go over to Hex Mambo, so add some more gold to the pockets of Hex Mambo. That passive farming that they've been doing to get to that 2K lead will now push themselves up to about a 2,500 gold lead over the Aaru Scorpions, who haven't really shown much fight aside from, what was that, the 4 ganks that came over to the solo lane. Panvich and Sarpeii really wanted to put pressure on Deathwalker. Got him one time, but haven't seen much more since then.
You know, let's see that player damage. Let's see really who's been getting the most active.
It's gotta be the solo lane.
I mean, I would think Sarpeii has done a fair bit, but besides that, you know, not too much coming the way of anyone, and it looks like Panvich is on top, but Pikarino? I haven't seen too much burst coming out of Pikarino, but, you know, doing Dragon's hits once or twice, or you hit 2 different targets, it'll do about that much burst damage at this point.
Johnny's at 1,400.
Well, yeah, he's been playing Farm Simulator,
he's
man.
below the Kepri.
He's just eating. You know, imagine how many minions he's got stacked up because he has not regurgitated
If only we could keep a stat track on that. How many minions has Bakasura eaten on average in a game? Yeah, that would be a fun stat.
That's something that Gore wishes he had.
Oh,
Dave's
gone! We get caught off guard in an instant. We finally see the first real sign of aggression. Now we see it on the opposite side. Johnny versus 2. The emblem comes out. That would get the beads from Johnny. But Panvich and Sarpeii can chase out this Bakasura. Meanwhile, the fight on the left side is Predss will go down, forced to use the Scare's Blessing on himself. Gets the dash to get away, but the Sprute comes out from Trixtank, and the kill for Zyrhoes. What was an 0-2 game is now tied up at 2-2.
Yeah, but the cold lead is anything but tied up. 5K in favor for Mambo. Johnny lives through that, you know, pretty effortlessly, I will say, and now it looks like Fire Giant should definitely be looked at. You've got the 2-man advantage. You've got all the ultimates except for dueling dragons down, and Deathwalker can tank this all day with Death's Embrace. Like, the Scourge of Death's Embrace, he will not go down in the slightest, and it looks like the rest of Aaru Scorpion just splitting the map, trying to get as much farm as they can. Given the fact that they played for this late game, they didn't get too aggressive. I mean, Sarpeii tried to force some ganks in solo, but that's about it. And now they're sort of losing that fight. It's not looking too good.
Especially when you're looking at a 7,000 gold lead. What was even about 10 minutes ago, and then slowly crawled up to that 2K lead that the Hex Mambo have. Now we're at 7,000 and still rising because they have every tower on the map that they've been able to take. Tier 1 solo, Tier 2 in solo. Now they can walk right over to mid, mosey on over to left, and take all of those towers. Plenty of free gold across the map for Hex Mambo. Off the back of 2 kills, an aggressive play in the left side that picks off Davey, and then the over-aggression in the right side that then leaves Predss all by himself to defend against the Fury.
You want to see something pretty gross?
Yes.
You know, I just saw Echrome's Silver Brand stacks go to 55. Then he purchased an Odibo. So whenever Trix uses that Coerce on him,
he's at 17 without his stem pops.
Yeah, once he pops his 2 and the Coerce comes through, just expect to see that number skyrocket. We're going to see a ton of damage coming through Echrome because of that Death's Temper. Not the Death's Embrace. This isn't the Healy Boy. This is, hey, I'm killing minions and gaining even 31 more attack speed. So it's at 40, but still hasn't popped the stem and gotten we're going to see a ton of damage coming out from Echrome. Like, when we just saw Davey die, it looked for a second like he was getting crits, but no, that's just how much damage he's able to output with this style of build on the Rama.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about.
That's insane, how many stacks he's able to pick up on there. And again, that's without Deathwalker being near him to give him a Shogun's passive too.
Oh, I thought Trix had a Shogun. So,
no.
Yeah, once they group up even more, yeah, you're going to see
gross.
A ton of damage coming the way. The Odibo ticks are going to start flying in. They don't care about the towers. They're going for this Phoenix already.
Good Phoenix damage, though, or I should say Phoenix fire damage from Pikarino, but Echrome can continue slowly whittling away at the health bar of this Phoenix. Has those minions there. Sprute popped by Trixtank to try and disengage the fight. And Predss will eat the hammer stun. Phoenix still sitting on its last little bit of HP. You can see when Echrome is near Deathwalker, it's just a flat 40 stacks on Silver Branch.
Yeah, the damage will be starting to output as Dzoni finds Sarpeii in the jungle. And it looks like Predss is getting absolutely melted by Echrome. Dzoni actually losing that fight.
Snipes.
And up for the snipes.
Good by Echrome. Not enough to get a kill. Deathwalker in the back does find 2 with the Eagles rally. Predss gets the pull on the Deathwalker, but Sarpeii is just playing the nuisance in the backline of Hex Mambo, but that's not going to be enough to stop Hex Mambo. They'll be able to grab that left side. Phoenix, Deathwalker can walk himself out, and a fantastic initiation by him nets a Phoenix for Hex Mambo.
Yeah, the damage output was a little bit too much. Sarpeii and Dzoni found each other in the jungle, but not much came from it. Both ultimates are still available as Hex Mambo has another minute and 6 seconds for this FG to play with, so mid Phoenix certainly could be looked at. They don't have to worry about fire minions for quite some time in the left, but the Aaru Scorpions are going to give up at least the tower for free. They have to siege a defense here because losing 2 birds at this point would be disastrous.
Especially if it's the left and the mid one. Trixtank will transform. Zyrhoes gets rooted out, but he's fine. Coerce onto quite a few players. 78 stacks, by the way, on that Silver Branch, popping away at the enemy team. But Deathwalker's the one who's getting chunked to the backline. Echrome needs some backup against Sarpeii, and he will find it in Syrup's Blessing. Front Predss will keep Sarpeii alive, but another double Eagles rally by Deathwalker sets up a double kill for Deathwalker, maybe even a third, but Panvich able to find the ultimate to get himself out. It's Echrome finding the closing kill onto iDavy. Zyrhoes finds Panvich before he can get back to the fountain, and Hex Mambo at the very end of it all, a very brief pause. Not even sure by who.
Dzoni
will be
DC'd!
jumping himself back out. Dzoni DC's at the end of the game as Hex Mambo are ready to push themselves right to the end. It's only Pikarino left alive, though.
Yeah, I mean, Deathwalker's going to teleport back in full HP. Echrome's got the Odibo, so if Pikarino tries to step up and body block autos, it's just going to be bouncing back and forth between the Titan. This should definitely be a quick Titan end here for Hex Mambo. They don't have to worry about that one. And it looks like Deathwalker's back, and maybe trying to play with their food a little bit with that Celestial Flight should confirm that the Titan goes down, and Pikarino at least gets to live to see another day.
Yeah, Hex Mambo will grab the Titan. Sans Dzoni, so unfortunately for Dzoni, DC'd in 2 games. Luckily for him, it was at the tail end of this one after his team had already gotten a 4-man wipe. So Hex Mambo able to hold on to their #1 seed, keep that undefeated set record alive to close out this portion of the phase. And for really these 2 teams, there was no threat of them ever dropping too far down to worry about relegations. But talk about the glow up that the Aaru Scorpions have had from phase 1 into phase 2, Charlie. New look of this team, some players that have gotten pulled from various other teams to kind of form a new Aaru Scorpions. And they go from being a team that couldn't find a win really much at all in phase 1 to now being the #2 seed in phase 2.
Yeah, they've been looking really solid, but if you want to talk about glow up, you can't forget about Mambo as well. They're
True.
on top now, but they were not on top in that first phase. It was looking a little bit rough for them until about when Masters was about to be starting up, and it was like, wait, it's time. Like, we needed to turn on, and they certainly did, and they've been undefeated since then. I mean, not since, losing out Masters, but this phase in particular been undefeated, and they'll get to continue that as we highlighted. Just superior late game presence. They knew their comp was able to output this much damage late off the back of, I mean, you gotta highlight Deathwalker as just multiple 2-man Eagles rallies, so much CC and so much setup for the squad. And when Echrome can just free cast with a build like this, you're gonna see these type of damage numbers come out because this Rama build was just slapping.
It's always funny when we see highlights come up for teams. We get to kind of see like the evolution of the game. Like, all right, here's the first blood that happened in like 4 minutes, and then here was this fighter on a goal for you like 15 minutes, and here was this over this. The only highlights that we got were literally the only kills that happened for that team, and it happened at, what was that, like 16 minutes or so? Not even that. It was like even later than that, like 20 minutes by a Gold Fury. 2 of them ended up happening that way, and then the last team fight of the game, Hex Mambo, didn't need a whole lot of kills to find themselves a victory in game #3. But it's the only kills that they needed to make sure they could take down the Titan.
Yeah, but Dzoni only did 4,000 damage again. I mean, like, almost 5,000.
He outdamaged Predss at least this time.
I mean,
he was below Predss to start the game out.
Yeah, but, this Baka was just playing Farm Simulator. If you're able to get your Rama to this point, you don't really need a jungle, I suppose, so it was just sort of the fear of the Baka that was there, and I think it was doing just enough to make sure that the Aaru Scorpions couldn't get as aggressive as they wanted. Sarpeii, again, was trying to find some ganks in that solo lane. It was not for a lack of trying. It was just Deathwalker was playing very safe. Dzoni even got ganked in that solo lane once and was able to just run away at that point, and that's when the duo lane was able to get presence. They were in that Gold Fury fight, and then they're like, yeah, we'll just go for FG. We're up 3-5, might as well, right?
Might as well. And as you guys know, on this Thursday, we get 4 sets of SCC to play through. Those are our 2 EU sets. We'll take a look at the schedule to see what EU sets are left for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, Gilded Gladiators and Styx Ferrymen will face off, a very important match for both of these teams, as if I'm not mistaken, a loss for the Ferrymen could put them down into that 5th seed and put them up for that relegation slot. So really going to be making sure to keep your eyes on that. That's at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. That'll be happening right before the SPL. Hex Mambo with a 2-1 over the Scorpions. Ravens with a 2-1 over the Niflheim Wargs. Kind of round out at least the top 3 with the Ravens, Mambo, and Scorpions. So now we get to see, after tomorrow's set, kind of how the rest of the division will kind of pan itself out here, Charlie.
Yeah, you would definitely want to make sure you're paying attention to those last sort of matchups here, making sure you're confirming those 4th seed positions is what, top 4 is what you're looking at, and those are the most exciting matchups to watch, right, when everything's on the line. And I think Hex Mambo, they're always playing like everything's on the line because you don't want to lose that record. I highlight it a lot. When you got that 0 in your loss column, you want to continue that, so your superiority in this region is never questioned, right? When people say who's the best EU SEC team, I don't think anyone can say anything but Mambo right now until someone dethrones them or at least puts a loss on their record.
Yeah, we did see at least the one game there that came from a DC, so whether you want to count that one as an actual loss, it's technically a loss in their column, but not really a full loss out on the battlefield. They did have control, and we're still also controlling the game for like another 10 or 12 minutes past that point, so Hex Mambo still hold on to their #1 seed. That's it for the EUSCC, though. We got 2 North American sets coming up right after this break.